No, small, first letters.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the Town of Londonderry, April 20th, 2022. Before we start this meeting, I'd like to go over the meeting procedures. We have a full agenda this evening, so I would really like to go over the procedures so that we can get through all of everything tonight rather than having any overflow for the following meeting, because everybody came out for this evening, so we're going to try to get through all of it. So the procedures are that the clerk will read the case into the record. The applicant will then come to the front at the microphones and make their presentation. The board addresses the applicant with any questions or comments. Those in favor of the request are given the opportunity to address the board. Those that are opposed or having questions regarding the request are given the opportunity to address the board. The applicant is given the opportunity to rebut any opposition. The opposition is given the opportunity for rebuttal. The board addresses the applicant with any additional comments or questions. At that time, if there are none, the public hearing portion regarding the case is closed, at which time the board enters into deliberation and votes on the request or continues the case to a future date. I would like to request that all cell phones either be silenced or shut off for the meeting so as not to interrupt. And any conversation this evening, whether it be the applicant or those in opposition or for any of the cases tonight, you must address the board. We don't want conversation going back and forth from the applicant to the parties. You got to come to the board so we can just keep order and get down to business for this evening. So please keep that in mind. Should we go over tonight and we reach 10 p.m., I will then take a survey of every board member if we are to continue and if everyone's okay to continue. The next date, if we don't get through all the cases, is when?
May 5th.
So then anything we don't get to this evening will then be deferred to May 5th. So we will try our best. So the first order of business is that everybody should introduce themselves. We're going to go around so that you all know us. Nick, would you start us off this evening?
I'm Nick Codner, Chief Building Inspector and Zoning Administrator.
Laura Gandia, Associate Planner.
Irene Macarelli, Associate Member.
David Armstrong, Associate Member.
Brendan O'Brien, voting member.
Jackie Bernard, voting member.
Suzanne Brunel, voting member.
Bill Barradino, voting member.
Rich Feig, voting member.
Chris Moore, alternate member.
We never forget you, Beth. First order, the draft minutes to approve for the March 16th, 2022. I was not here for that meeting, but I will need someone to,
There were only 3 people that were there.
there was only 3?
I think it was 4.
There were
but
4.
I can make the motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 16th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meetings are accepted. Do we have a report by the town council liaison this evening? No, we don't. Okay, thank you. And Laura, the regional impact determination?
Yes, we have 3 cases for your consideration. First is case number 4/2022-1, request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.C.1 to encroach 25 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a shed, 13 Thornton Road, map 6, lot 99-79, zoned AR1. Harmony Barassa and Eric Paris, owners and applicants. Case number 4/2022-2, request for a special exception pursuant to LZO 5.13 for the farm sale of consumable non-farm products, 230 Mammoth Road, map 6, lot 21, zoned AR1. Kyle Christensen and Moose Hill Orchard LLC, owner and applicants. Case number 4/2022-3, request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.C.1 to encroach 20 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a garage, 188 High Range Road, map 9, lot 7-3, zoned AR1. Craig and Karen Farnsworth, owners and applicants. Staff recommends that the board find that these projects are not developments of regional impact as they do not meet any of the criteria set forth by the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
And do I have a motion for the regional impact determination?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the regional impact determination.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will hear our first case. Are we ready, Brandon?
I think so. Case number 11/17/2021-3, a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.2.3.B.1.B. 45 residential three-bedroom units where only 20.66 are permitted, 22 Young Road, map 6, lot 58-2, zoned R3. Edgar L. Pitts and Winifred L. Fitch, Revocable Trust owner, and Cedar Crest Development LLC applicant, continued from the March 16, 2022 meeting.
And Madam Chair, before we begin, just a housekeeping matter for this particular case.
Yes.
So, as you may be aware, these two cases for Young Road, they each were requesting two variances. We had a change in the town zoning, which eliminated the elderly housing requirement for multifamily, so the applicants have withdrawn those two requests as they're no longer needed. So now they're down to one for each case. And they also amended their request for down to 45 residential units, where 20.66 are permitted. So it was at 55, so they have amended it to 45.
Okay, so it
residential.
was previously at 55.
It was
Yeah,
55, so they
okay.
have now amended it to 45, where 20.66 are permitted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Bill, are you okay to sit on this one for Young? Because this is the third time you're here? Second, third?
Third substantively. We were
Third.
here last month, but we didn't go forward.
Okay,
I'm gonna let one of the alternates take it.
okay. So, David, do you want to be in on this? Okay, all right, thank you, Bill. Please proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is John Cronin, an attorney in Manchester with the firm of Cronin, Bisson, and Zelinski. Pleased to represent the applicant here this evening. With me tonight is Aaron Orso, Rob Meisner, and Kurt Meisner, the project engineer for this particular plan that came before you initially back in November. At that particular time, it was a proposal to do 55 homes, which were the product of a rezoning effort in which Aaron and Rob went to the Select Board Council to talk about rezoning. During that conversation, there was a direction of the type of housing that the town was looking for and a request that they move in that direction as opposed to do multifamily or over 55, because it was their understanding that that supply was in balance, that there was a significant number of over 55. Aaron and Rob and his team, they went to do the design work and came up with these particular proposals. We had a lengthy hearing in November. The process, as it typically works, in this case worked well. Abutters and others had some comments, and there were some issues that were raised. Went back to the drawing board and did some tweaks to that and came back before you several months later. At the last meeting, there was some direction from this board, and that was to go meet with the abutters, talk about the density and see if any reduction could be made, take a look about the septics and see if you could come up with conditions that would satisfy the abutters. Rob and Aaron spent a lot of time with the abutters, did some site walks. You'll see in your packet, there is a term of conditions, which include no cut area. It's probably worthwhile flipping to that right now. The pages aren't numbered, but you'll see a title that's in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Second page, huh?
The second tab in. And there's a list of conditions that were the product of discussions with the neighbors. Mr. Meisner, the project engineer, also went back and looked at septics. Those systems have been enhanced as suggested by the board, to provide extra base for them as to what's required and their state-of-the-art systems. If you look at that schedule, it talks about the applicant's proposed conditions of approval. One, the applicant shall incorporate the septic maintenance, pumping, and cleaning specifications and requirements into the condominium documents. In all septic systems built to service the development, the applicant will increase the sand by an additional 6 inches to maximize filtration. Number 3, septic systems J, K, and L to be constructed within 100 feet to 130 feet of any jurisdictional wetland shall be clean solution systems. The benchmark setback is 75 feet as required by DES. Number 4, the applicant shall include language in the condominium instruments that the association shall pump and clean the septic system at least once per calendar year. That maintenance requirement, which is also suggested by Ms. Gandia, at I believe the last meeting, is also noted on the plan. Number 5, all septic systems shall be over-designed by 0.2 times the required piping, thereby increasing the field size by 20%. Additionally, the use of advanced EnviroPipe or similar, which will in effect double the required offset in natural soil. 6, developer agrees to stake out clearing cut line for privacy, map 658-4, map 658-5, map 658-6, and map 658-7. The cut line will be enhanced by the developer with 3 to 4 foot mulched out berm and include a 5-foot natural colored vinyl fence to promote additional privacy. And 7, the developer agrees to move the walking trail from the backyards of 658-4, 658-5, 658-6, and 7 to promote additional privacy. Happy to report, it's believed that the abutters were satisfied with those conditions. In the last meeting, there were a number of them that were here. I'm not sure if any here this evening to share their support. So I believe that we've addressed all of the questions and concerns of the board and the public that has commented. We'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Laura, do I have to have him go through the 5 points of law again?
No, unless he wants to elaborate on that, but he's already done that.
Are you okay with?
We already did them, but in reviewing the minutes, and I think there was some discussion about it, and I looked at the general application, typically the standard for hardship here is that, there's no fair and substantial relationship between the ordinance and the application to the property, and most importantly, based on the opinion of Justice Horton from the Supreme Court, that the use is reasonable. That subsection B, which is a section that I don't rely on too often in my cases, basically says that another way to get to hardship if the property can't be used in conformity with the ordinance. Well, in this particular case, that's not technically true, but by application, if Mr. Meisner and Mr. Orso keep their word and keep the deal that they had with the rezoning, which was not to put multifamily or over 55, then technically you could use that basis for the hardship criteria. Also, I'll just supplement in your packet, because there was some comment at the last meeting about appraisal. Did go out and engage an appraiser to take a look at the abutting properties, and you'll find in your packet opinion of value that if the variances are granted, it will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. On another note, I should have said it at the outset, because these are 2 separate cases. In the prior meetings, we had the hearing together because the relief is essentially the same. It's 2 parcels that are going to be consolidated. So in the interest of time in your agenda, I'm happy, at this point to say, what's good for one is good for the other, and we can consolidate them if that's the chair's pleasure.
Does anybody from the board have any questions?
I do. Hey, Laura, can you put up, because I didn't get a chance to look through it, the appraisal letter? I don't know if you've got the file, the new file.
I do. And John, do
It
you know what
should be
page
in your
that is?
packet if you have one in front of you.
It's the third page.
New packet? It's, oh, it's okay. Sure. Other people can ask.
I have it up now as well.
I did have one question. This was originally zoned for an available 20.66, and I guess this is more for you, Laura. What was the criteria that led it to be zoned for 20.66
It's based on soil types.
soil types?
So that's what's allowed is 20.66 units. That's why they're here for the variance. And I'm being simplistic, but it's based on, we have a whole table and formula. If John wanted to elaborate on that, he could, but it's a soil type, John. I don't know if you wanted to give any more insight into that. He was asking the 20.66. I just want to make sure you're satisfied with my answer. I said it's being simplistic, it's based on soil types.
Yes, soil-based size.
I didn't know if
And
you-
there's a, I won't say a disconnect, but different standards. The state has what I'll say is a more liberal standard. And I think the number that if you use state soil-based sizing for health, safety, and welfare, according to state regs, is up around 67. If you use the town, which has a little bit more stringent standard, that comes to that 20 number that Laura mentioned.
Okay.
The problem with, with land cost and infrastructure costs, I almost fell off my chair the other day. I had a road cost estimate, not in Londonderry, but another town at over $1,000 a foot. So a project like this just doesn't work with 20 units.
Got it.
Infrastructure and land cost is too extreme.
So you went from 55 units to 45 units, right?
Yeah, we reduced the density by 20%. That was a topic of concern, so they went back and looked at it in conversations with the abutters. It was a number that was believed everyone was comfortable with.
And this was originally zoned for over 55, right? Is that correct?
It was zoned for over 55. It was never planned for over 55 unit project. One of the waivers that we sought initially was to waive the requirements that a certain percentage be over 55. But while this case was pending, where it started in November, there was a zoning change that eliminated that, so it's no longer required.
So, so there was no plan for 55. No, I'm just wondering if there was an amount of over 55 housing that was going to be there originally.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
I'm just wondering if there was a plan of how many over 55 housing would be in this same,
I'm not sure. I know the R3 density, the goal of it and the intent of the district is to provide additional density, but I'll ask Aaron if you looked at it to see if over 55.
We did take a peek at it, and Nick, what was the exact number on the 55 plus? I mean, we didn't really go that route, because like I said from the beginning, it was just never our pitch to the planning board, nor was it to the town council. It was always to go single family, so we were just kind of following the rules of that.
okay. And then I see you put a buffer zone in here probably for the abutting neighbors, right?
Yeah, so after the meeting of 119, there was a good amount of neighbors on Copperfield Estate that came up and spoke and, had some concerns. So from the recommendation of the board, I scheduled a meeting with them, had them all, anyone who had an issue come to our office, and we sat down and had, an open dialogue of what they wanted to see. They had, they asked me to shrink the density. We came to a number that they felt somewhat comfortable with. Then what I did was I had my engineer stake out a no-cut line, and I met with them on site, and we walked. And obviously, this time of the year, when there's no leaves, and I pointed out to them that this is where we would be stopping the cutting. And there was one home that you could see a little bit through, but what we came up with a conclusion is if we kept this as the no-cut line, added a berm, put in a whole fenced-in area along that whole entire cut line that you'll see up right in front of here. And that's what they were able to agree on. I'm not too sure, I haven't looked behind me since the meeting started, but as of last meeting, I had 3 people that were here to more or less come back and say that we had met and we had come to some sort of an agreement in regards to that. I also let them know that I would propose a sidewalk. This was not something I could make a condition because I wasn't too sure in how the town engineer or how planning would go, but we would propose a sidewalk from our development to their development to benefit the kids of their neighborhood, being able to interact with what we thought of as the families of this neighborhood. Also, they had concern that they wanted to see a right-hand turn out of the development. This was, once again, something that we will propose, as I said, that I would to them. So that was how we left it with them. Like I said, we came last meeting, but didn't feel comfortable moving forward with only 3 board members, so we filed for a continuance.
Okay. And the size of the house, are they all the same?
Yeah, they're gonna
size
range
houses?
from 1,700 square feet up to about 2,300, 2,400 square feet.
That's what they were originally, too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I know at the beginning you proposed maybe a few lower priced housing? Is that
Yep,
still? or
you know,
no?
originally, when we had 55 units, we were proposing, some affordable units. You know, we're open to that, I'll be honest with you. Like John said, with our costs of infrastructure and development costs, it makes it a lot more tough for us to offer that with this amount of units. But, you know, we would be willing to, you know, if you guys were willing to work with us, we could include one or two of those that we would be willing to, you know, negotiate on.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any more questions from the board?
The lot size, is this themselves, square footage?
The lot sizes, it'll be all common land, because it'll be part of an HOA, so there really isn't any individual lot size, it'll just be based on the footprint of the house.
That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not a condo,
Yeah.
so it's not is it a condominium or is it a homeowners association? John?
It would be a condominium association.
Okay. Then that makes sense.
Apologize if I misspoke.
That's okay. You just threw me off, that's all. So ballpark, what is the lot size for each unit? I mean, you've got it
We
here,
could
so
take
you know
the-
what
the
you've got for
total
park
area and
space, you
divide
know what
it
your,
into 5
your
units.
open space. I mean, it's 24 acres and you've got 45 units, so it's,
Yeah.
The whole pitch of the idea is to provide more common area for the development, and that's what we tried to do with the whole plan, is, you know, it's not really about lot sizes, it's about quality of home and having the ability to, you know, use the different, you know, things that we've laid out in the subdivision, the park. There's a whole gathering area, fire pit, bocce courts, you know, things of that nature are what we're trying to kind of, provide our buyers.
I do have two additional questions. On the cut line close to Copperfield, I see that the walking trail goes beyond the cut line.
Yeah, we're gonna move that cut line. I'm still in the works of working with them. They, you know, they really would prefer that it kind of cuts across. If you see, where the no cut line is and the walking trail is, if you see where the, septic system or the leach field N is located, you see where that is?
Which
It says right next to open space. We're gonna cut the walking trail to kind of come across that way so that it's not, interfering with any of that no cut line zone.
I'm sorry, I don't see what you were referring to.
Go up and show 'em. Madam Chair, is it okay if you approach us?
Absolutely. Please.
The first page.
Would this help?
actually,
Right there.
N is right here. So
Okay.
we're gonna cut it kind of and just come across with it over into this region, so we're gonna eliminate this behind.
Okay, so the walking trail won't go behind those houses anymore. It'll go
It's gonna
kind of
go right
across.
Across where Road C is.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Big deals?
Appreciate it.
That commitment to move it is also documented in the proposed conditions.
Perfect.
So I'm looking through the packet that you just gave us this evening. So is it safe to say, because Suzanne asked and she really didn't get an answer, is it roughly each of these homes are on a 1/4 acre lot? Roughly?
I
Because
think that's how the math works out.
because that's what I did quickly in my head, and I'm not a mathematician, so I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, I would say that that's about right.
Are you okay with that,
I-
Suzanne? Okay.
I had worked my own math out, so.
And just to further respond to Member Brunel's comment about condominium, you know, we haven't talked about that in detail, but typically she's correct in noting that it would be typically a condominium form. That there are many HOAs today, sometimes referred to as zero lot line developments, where you have the pad underneath your building and the rest of the land is common area. Looks and feels exactly like a condominium, but for lending purposes and financing, the banking community is more comfortable with condominium. So that's my expectation, where the way that it would go.
So basically, they would own the house but not the land.
They'd have a fractional interest in the land, so each one of the owners would have a 1/45th interest in the common areas. Typical if you would bought a condominium. So they own all that land in common.
Suzanne, this is a question for you. So throughout.
Laura.
I think you mean Laura.
I mean Laura. Ugh. Sorry, Suzanne. Laura.
You can ask Suzanne too.
Yeah, I can ask Suzanne too. Throughout the year, we always get the request to hear for sheds, pools. How, with these lot sizes, once people move in and then they actually figure out how tiny their area is and what they can and cannot do within that area, is there concern when it comes to HOAs? Are they allowed to, do they come as owners of their homes if they want a shed and they can't fit it because it has to be so many feet away from property lines and so on and so forth? So these are postage size lots. And throughout the years, this is what we hear all the time. I want a pool, I want a garage, I want extra storage outside. So I want to get this aired out now.
I can fix that easy. So that's a great question and a great concern. And in the declaration, which works as an encumbrance that would be recorded at the Registry of Deeds, is they have a fractional interest. No homeowner would have the right to do anything in the common area. If there was a porch, attached to the back, that's limited common. They might be able to put furniture and things on that, but they couldn't do it. The only thing that you might be able to do is the association would have the power and say, hey, we may need to put a cover over the wellhead or something like that. But no individual owner would have the right to expand beyond their footprint. And we can
It's a
make that
condominium,
Okay.
crystal
so they
clear in
don't
the
own
documents.
The land to put a shed on.
And that's where I didn't understand.
Right, that's why. my question-
Condominium versus homeowners versus, so, and
In either case, it would be clear. There's no way you could manage that, as you correctly noted. And if people started coming in saying, I want a pool, or I want a garage, or I want a workshop, it would ruin the whole design aspect of what's being contemplated here. So,
and after meetings like this, what we get is disappointed homeowners because they don't realize that they can't do these things. So there's enough people here tonight, and there's gonna be a nice buzz and interest. This way, everyone knows above the board what can and cannot be done here if it is approved this evening.
So, I mean, as far as people that are disappointed, I mean, the AG's office is pretty rigorous in approving these projects. You need a disclosure statement, almost like you were buying a startup stock company. Unfortunately, some people may not read that. I know, the story that we always hear is someone bought a condominium up at Winnipesaukee, and they thought they got a dock with it because the broker told them so, and then they find out there's 80 units and 10 docks, and everyone has to share, and yeah, they're disappointed, but it's really because they didn't do their homework.
True, buyer beware. But meetings like this with great attendance like this, it gives everybody firsthand knowledge of how the system works and how much we face here as people that just donate our time, and then people like yourselves that come for requests. So thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, Laura.
And Jay, I'm just going to add one thing, just as I think examples are good. Let's just say if I took a unit number 35 behind, if they wanted to put a shed or something there and it was in some type of, they wouldn't come here. None of these units are going to come to you for sheds because we don't have jurisdiction as the zoning board because they're not encroaching into the setback for the property as a whole.
As a
So-
whole.
So if they wanted to, number 35 wanted to put a shed and they were denied, we, meaning staff, would not deny the placement of that shed. They would be denied by the condominium association, and that would be a private civil matter that they would have to work out between the condominium association. If they were doing something within the perimeter buffer, that's the town zoning, then as a whole, the condo association would have to come in and ask for an amendment to the site plan for that condo association. So it'd be quite a process, but it's only to the outer limits of zoning that we have control over. We don't have control over the internal workings of the condominium association. That's governed, like John said, by the AG's office and by the condominium documents.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there any other questions that the board would like to ask before I open it to the public?
I did just have one more question. The SMF zones, what was that? What does that stand for? The kind of circular oval zones, SMF 1, 2, and 3?
Sort of at the corners of the property.
It's stormwater management,
Oh, okay, so like,
drainage of the
Okay.
development, yeah.
okay, that was all.
So, yeah, I had some questions. So I've had a chance to look at that letter. I did see the appraiser suggest at the end that, you know, in his opinion, you know, it wouldn't have an impact, but I didn't see anything in the bullets. Like, I looked at the third and fourth bullet, and he talks about prices, but at no point did I see anything that said, here's, you know, at least I couldn't read it. Maybe because, you know, I just read it now, with all that's going on, but I couldn't see anything that showed me evidence of that. I get that they're an expert and they're giving an opinion, but I couldn't find anything in the balance of the letter that made it clear to me that it wouldn't have a negative impact on the property. I mean, the third bullet and the fourth bullet talk about comparative prices, but they never sort of make a comparison, at least from my perspective. I'm asking, am I missing something? Did I misread it? I just didn't see, here, and this shows that the prices of houses that were close to condominiums did not go down. I saw the median sale prices of condos, and they seem to do fine, but I couldn't find a comparison. So direct me if I'm missing it.
I think you're on track. I think what he's saying in comparison to single families, actually, some of these condominium prices, median-wise, are higher.
Right.
And they're not a detriment to the value, the general market value.
You know, my concern is, of course, that there are homes in the area without any condos at the moment. And will there be an impact on the existing?
Well, sure, there's always an impact, but I don't think that's the proper benchmark, with all due respect to it, because I think when you're looking at it for that comparison, and I don't see that he noted this, is you look at what the allowed uses are without a variance. So if that were maximally developed with an over 55 or a multifamily, you wouldn't have to come here for a variance. Certainly, the impact would be much more significant.
No, I agree, but if you didn't come here, you know, you don't need our approval. So the
That's
fact
right.
that you're here now, we have to look at, you know, that is one of the 5 points that we have to look at.
So noted.
One of the other questions I had, so the one I struggled with, and you sort of talked about it a little, and I didn't get there, so maybe we can go back through it. So the 5th point of law, where you talk about, you know, it says, only when some characteristic of the particular land in question makes it different from the others in the area, is there an unnecessary hardship. I haven't seen anything that tells me this property is really unique. I think in your original, you know, note, you wrote, the parcel is unique in its feature and location. I could say that about every parcel in town. So I didn't see anything that said to me, here, this parcel is unique, here's how, and that's why we should be able to put more than twice as many units on it as we would be allowed under the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, and I think, you know, prior to Simplex, that would be kind of an abstract analysis. When you look at the trilogy of Simplex, Boccia, and the Justice Wharton opinion, she said when you're looking at this hardship standard, the first thing to look at is reasonableness, and that's when they kind of flipped New Hampshire from being a super strict hardship state where if you could graze a cow on your land, you had no basis for hardship, to say, look at the totality of circumstances. Here you have a lot, it's a corner of a busy road, 102, where there's certainly concerns about traffic impact and how it's going to work. You've got a side street next to a well-developed single-family residence. You've got some pocketed wetlands in there that make some of the design and layout challenging if you were going to do it, either for multifamily or single-family residences. And when you look at it in the context of all of it, and, you know, as far as uniqueness, if you're looking at something specific and saying certainly the shape, configuration, access points, and frontage makes it different than a lot of others, and its proximity to the properties around it, I think gets you enough to get you that reasonableness standard.
But how I mean, why wouldn't that argue for 500 units? Like, why does that, I mean, you could put 20 in, we agree, you wouldn't be here, right? But why gets us to the number that you're suggesting?
Well, I mean, when you look at, you know, 500 units, you certainly couldn't do that because of septic, right?
Well,
That's going to be.
but you could
biggest-
still come here and argue it, you know.
Yeah, we couldn't say that it would work, and we couldn't say that it would work well. Here, you're looking at a situation where you have, you know, smaller-sized homes on a large-sized lot with enhanced septic systems, which were asked for, that really provide utility in a price point that really is not generally available. So I think when you think of it in a totality situation, you can meet that hardship criteria. And secondly, when I raised it earlier, I touched on it and said, condition B, which throws all that uniqueness and special conditions out, is, okay, can you do this in strict conformity with the ordinance? Well, if you listen to what the council said, you really can't do multifamily there. You can't do elderly there, and you can't do 20.66 or 99 houses because land cost and infrastructure prohibits it. So how can you use this land, its highest and best use, provide a housing product that's in demand and it's in harmony with the abutters in the community? This is about the best you're gonna do.
Okay. And then, one of the things I think we heard early on, maybe the first time you were here, was concerns about the fire station, the number of cars on that road, for safety in the area. How did we get beyond that?
There's a traffic study that's in the packet as well. I believe, certainly at the planning department, whether it's TRC, the fire, we'll have to meet all life safety code regulations and applications for road safety. And it would be typical for the fire chief or his designee or the police department to look at the entire plan and comment at the planning board, either through memo, address, or communication with the planning staff. And, we have every intent to comply with those life safety requirements.
I'm good for now.
I have another question. So this is more like a condominium type of deal, right? So does, like the road plowing, trash pickup and all that, is that contained within the complex, or is that, the town has to provide for that?
No, that'll be part of the HOA fee, condominium fee. Trash pickup, landscaping, snow removal, obviously septic maintenance would be part of that as well. Lighting, insurance, so yeah, all of those things would be covered by an HOA fee.
Okay.
Condo fee, if you will.
Any other questions from board members?
Yeah, I did have one more. The existing properties that are kind of in conflict, I guess, with this plan, have you already purchased those properties with, the houses and the barns and things like that that would need to be torn down? Or,
We're currently under agreement with them, as part of a contingency on approvals. And yes, both of those properties would be raised.
okay.
So I'm just reading some of the letters that are in your packet that you gave us this evening, and I just want to make a comment that a lot of these letters resonate the same continuous sentence. Local real estate market being that there's a great strain on it, and that this project will give an additional high-quality and affordable housing option. Shortage, development can help with the shortage as well as keep new construction pricing lower. I just, these letters are in support that I'm reading here, and that is subjective. And I just want to remind everybody what lower construction pricing is. What you think is low and what I think is low, that's subjective. So we're gonna start to clear the air on that, because there's gonna be no misunderstanding what pricing is pricing. It takes a certain amount of financial backing in which to do a project like this and to construct these homes. And for anybody to make a statement here that this is gonna be a lower priced house or housing, that's, these letters are resonating those thoughts. So I just wanna put that out there, just for the record, because whatever the prices of these homes, depending on the square footage and what they're gonna pick for options and so forth, that sentence of affordable and low-cost housing is really not appropriate right now because it's subjective, okay? So no one should be disillusioned, because the $189,000 homes are no more. That was 1980. And the housing market is just unbelievable now, what the prices for homes are that are already existing and the new homes that are in the area and what they're going for. Okay.
And we don't want to, we're not trying to, lead anyone down something that isn't a reality. The reality is we are going to market these at a market rate. Our goal is obviously with the size of them, is to try to kind of keep our costs down. Londonderry is a very desirable area. We are currently, I built a 8-lot subdivision that we just wrapped up last year, and anything over 3,000 square foot is tough to be under $950,000 right now, which is the hard reality of Londonderry. So with these types of plans, we're trying to shoot to be in the upper mid sixes to upper sixes. I can't tell you that that's going to be, who knows where a year from now is. If we are already able to get relief from you guys tonight and we go to planning board, I don't know where the cost of construction is going to be. The house that was costing me $300,000 last year is now costing me $450,000, and that's not a lie or an exaggeration. That's the reality of where we are. So I'm not too sure. Hopefully interest rates can somewhat dampen that, but to be honest with you, the housing inventory issue I brought this up to you guys before. It's an enormous issue. I'm not going to beat the horse and tell you that, but there's no homes on the market. I mean, I believe there's about a 30-day supply currently in Londonderry right now, and a healthy market has 6 to 7 months worth of supply.
So at least putting it and stating it for the record, just make sure that we all know, that this is what reality is. Okay? If there's no more questions from the board, I'd like to move it to the public. Are we all set? So anybody that is here tonight in favor of this, if you'd like to approach, you're going to please go to the microphone there and state your name for the record. All right, let the record show there's no one. Is there?
I'll come up.
Okay, please go right to the podium and state your name, sir. And your address.
My name is Philip Pitts. I'm Winnie and Ed's son. So I'm not a town resident. I'm coming here representing them. They just kind of want to let you know, we've been here since 1963. Love the town. My father's 90, my mother's 86. We've always kind of looked at this place as, what are we going to do with the farm? What are we going to do with the farm? And Aaron came and he offered us a fantastic deal. Honestly, from the outset, it was zoned commercial at one point, and I thought it had more value commercially. Aaron comes in and says, listen, your dad loves this property. We'll build him a house as part of the deal and the development, and that's what sealed the deal. I mean, my parents really would just hope you would put yourself in their shoes. They've owned the property 59 years, and it's time for them to make a change. That's all. That's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in favor? Could you please come to the mic?
Hi, my name is Heidi Bennett. I'm one of the owners of 20 Young Road. It's actually a mistake in the minutes for tonight. So I am one of the owners. And we've lived at the property since 1996. We always knew that the property behind us would get developed. And having the road frontage next to them on Young Road and enabling this development or whatever gets developed there, whatever gets built there, to not have to go in and out of another point on 102, we thought was a great benefit. So we held on to our property as long as we could. And we're happy to be part of this and hope that it really goes through, because everything we've seen over the years, all the different people that have approached us for different types of developments, this was the one we really liked. So I'm happy to see my property go to this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Please come to the mic, sir.
Hi, my name is Stephen Young. The road was named after my family. We've been on the land since the 1750s. And we still own 20 acres around our house. But I'm just stunned by the impact of this development and what it's going to do to a neighborhood that has been my family roots for before the Revolutionary War. We've farmed the land. We've served our country. I was a diplomat for 33 years before I retired to the family home. And, you know, my idea of Londonderry is a sort of a country place where you have houses spread out over, I mean, go down any of, I walk the roads, go down any of these roads. This is an urban development. You know, I can't talk about the law, but I'm just stunned by the impact it's going to have, and it's going to change a Londonderry that I've known and loved for a long time, and it's going to make it a less attractive place. I don't know why they couldn't have the size of the properties there. I've talked to Ed and Winnie, who are good friends, and I'm happy for them. They're going to get a little house, and their son will be happy and so forth. But to me, this is part of a deterioration of the quality of life of Londonderry that brought so many people here over the years. And I'm so stunned by the overbuilding of this place that I don't know where to start. But all I can say is that I'm ashamed that we're talking about the urbanization of a place that I love and have had roots in for a long, long time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else opposed? Please come approach the mic, please.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Finnemore. I'm Steve Young's wife, and I share his concerns. Our property does not abut this proposed development, so we have not been involved in all of the discussions. But what I do want to say is I think there was misrepresentation today about the views of the abutters. We had a conversation this afternoon with Sarah Clark, who has been opposing this property for months. And she told me, although she couldn't make it tonight, as she's come over and over again to these hearings and is feeling worn down. She said that she is still, and many of the residents are not satisfied with the decision or the proposal to reduce the number of properties from 55 to 45, when it's still over twice as many as currently permitted by the zoning. That she's very concerned, and we share this concern, about the traffic on Young Road, which is a little country road, really. We walk it every day with our dog, and most of the traffic that we see on it now is that fire truck that you are so glib about not being a problem with all this new traffic here. I can see right now that this proposal to overbuild and cram so many of these postage stamp houses into this place coming right onto Young Road is going to interfere with the ability of those fire trucks to come to us. So we're directly affected by this. The other main traffic we see on Young Road is the school bus. My children rode that school bus and picked them up in front of our house on Young Road every day. They are going to have trouble getting around with all this traffic. It's a tremendous amount of new traffic on a little country road. The people we heard in favor of this are friends of ours. They're not going to have to live with the impacts that we are going to feel every single day. And what I think that the standard here is reasonableness. We think it's unreasonable to go beyond what the soil can bear according to New Hampshire law. We have wetlands too. That's one reason why we're not building on the other side of Young Road. It's just from an ecological standpoint, and I am an environmentalist, it's not supportive. This environment is not supportive of this many number of new homes and new lots, despite of the technicalities of the septic system. We're talking about the ecology. We're talking about the traffic. We're talking about the quality of life. I think the zoning board is here in large part to protect us, to protect those who live in Londonderry, to protect their quality of life, not just to allow the developers to cram in as many as they think that they can get away with, because it gives them more profit. So in balancing that, I hope you will give serious thought to why we need to have so many smaller lots. I mean, I'm not a developer. I can't say whether or not you're right that, oh, you would never build a community of 20 houses, which is what the zoning requires. Well, if you made them larger houses, I mean, just as practical matter, if you made them fewer but larger houses, you could charge more. And I think there's a market for that too. But again, I'm not an expert in that. I just know that many people who are going to have to bear the brunt of this community are not going to be served well by this zoning board by allowing over twice as many lots to be developed as is currently allowed. So I hope you will give consideration to our views, and as well as my husband's, just the character of Londonderry, the reason why so many people want to move to Londonderry is because of its quality of life. But if you make too many people moving in, it destroys the very character of this town that we all enjoy so much. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to any of the applicants that have come up?
Yeah, I mean, not unusual comments, unusual in the sense that they're not abutters, but, you know, one thing that you keep in mind, it's kind of a contradiction if you're environmentally concerned, even though we don't believe that 20-something houses is viable here. If you do a 20-lot subdivision, you're gonna have to cut all those trees down. It's gonna be a very different product. You're not gonna have the buffers, you're not gonna have the concentration of houses, and you're gonna get more million-dollar houses. I don't think that's what Aaron and Rob want to, a market they want to pursue, and certainly there's a lot of that type of property out there. And there's a need for this middle scale. I know you've qualified that concern as far as the merits, but the roadway issues and the fire issues, we didn't, if I was glib about it or whatever, I apologize. My comment to that is that these projects, as you know, when they go to the planning board, are heavily scrutinized for traffic. There is a traffic study here. It's rare to see a traffic study in a ZBA case. So because somebody gets a variance, that doesn't validate the traffic. You have to go to the planning board and you have to demonstrate that the traffic works. You have to get the fire chief, not only to say that the traffic circulation within the development works, but he can service the folks on Young Road. So I understand the concerns. Like I say, it's people, when they see change in development, it's a concern. We believe that this proposed development is the best use of the land. And, you know, I can't speak to what the hearsay issues was with the abutters. Certainly, we've had abutters here that were opposed, that came out personally in the past, or had an opportunity to write letters, but I can't comment on the conversation she's had with third parties.
I can comment on that. In regards to the misrepresentation, I met with every one of those people that we listed on the conditions, and like I said, I met with them on I think it was the Thursday after the meeting, and then I believe that Friday, we all walked the lot. And yes, I mean, you know, do they want a development behind them? No one does. But the reality is I think that they looked at what we were proposing and saying, all right, they're doing the best that they can to lessen the burden on us, and that is what we've done. And like I said to you before, and this is not a lie or an exaggeration, 3 of those abutters were here to speak in favor last meeting. You know, getting people to come back out and support you. You know, everyone comes out to speak in negative, but, you know, to get people to come out and support someone that they don't know, it's not an easy thing to do. So for us, it was a kick, you know, when we only, you know, I wasn't going to roll the dice on 3 board members last night or last meeting. And, you know, we worked, I still continued to try to work with them and show them that I, you know, wasn't just making verbal agreements. I put everything in writing. Every one of these emails, I'd be more than happy to share with, that I have a whole email chain going with the directly impacted people on Copperfield Lane. So there's no misrepresentation, there's none of that. And I'd be more than happy to sit down with anyone like I have. And like I said, we didn't make these conditions out of thin air. These are things that we talked out and we had an agreement on.
And I just want to also, for the record, so for people that don't attend these meetings on a regular basis, the ZBA must follow the 5 points of law. That's the only purview, this is the only authority that we have. We have to follow the strict 5 points of law in which we make our decision. If and when we do make a positive decision, it leaves us, and then the planning board has a whole set of regulations. And I can tell you that sometimes things have been granted here, but once the planning board reviewed it and then said, okay, you may have gotten a variance, however, you have to do this, this, and this, and plans have fallen through. So I just want to remind everybody that's here that doesn't attend meetings regularly, we have a very narrow set of rules, and that's all we can do. And once it leaves us, other boards have to then do what it is that they do. So just so that there's no misunderstanding, where we pick up and where we end as a ZBA. Thank you. Is there any other buddy that would like to speak in opposition? Could you please state your name?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Deborah Paul, 118 Hardy Road. I got 2 phone calls today, one from Miss Sarah Clark, who is making cradle caps for babies with cancer, and that is why she couldn't attend tonight. And she was very thankful that the developer took the time to speak with her. They're happy that they got some things done, but they are still very, very concerned about the amount of houses and the amount of traffic. I also got a phone call this afternoon from Mr. Tom Estee from the general store, who could not be here because he has to work. And he asked me to pretty much say the same thing that Sarah had said. I do applaud the developer for working with the abutters, and I think they're very close. And I think that, you know, a negotiation is 2 people walking away unhappy. And I think that, you know, maybe if they could just get the houses down a couple more, I think that, and with the turn onto 102 only, I think that would help. My problem with that is, and I'll be very honest, is I don't think that's going to be easy to enforce. And I know that's not necessarily here, but I had these things that I wanted to say. So those are my opinions. I think that the decision is yours. It is a hard decision. I do think there is a little bit more room for negotiation to satisfy the people who wanted to be here tonight but could not. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to approach? Okay, I'm going to close. Well, please state your name.
My name is Ann Champa. I'm speaking as a resident.
Your address, please?
28 Wedgewood Drive. Could I ask a couple of questions of staff first?
Of who?
Staff first.
Sure.
Okay. I was on the way over here. I'm not sure if I caught the width of the roads in this development.
What are the width of the roads? Wait, in your development, she wants to know what they are.
Excuse me? 24 feet, regulation size. But I'm just wondering if this is the new norm, pushing the envelope as far as what is permitted, as far as how far off there are in the number of houses permitted on this lot, more than doubling. This is, you know, it isn't a couple of houses, it's more than doubling it. And we're just throwing the zoning regulations away on this one, it seems. And, you know, thinking about the number of cars that will be leaving that development in that corner on Young Drive in, you know, 102, and the accidents they've been having there, this, I think, is an overload of that project on that area. And I think you should really seriously think about what precedent it sets also for the future. I just want to thank you. I know you have a very tough job, but I really want you to consider the ramifications for this, because it isn't affordable. And if I'm sorry, I have a hearing impairment, and I'm not sure if I heard right that the house values are going to be around 650,000. And what's the square footage of the houses?
Anywhere from 1,700 to 2,400.
Okay, well, that's larger than my house. It's just, I think that's basically a windfall for the developer. Since it's not affordable or more closely aligned what the average residents in Londonderry can afford. And I've lived here a long time, over 30 years. I grew up next door in Manchester. And I moved here because of I always said I wanted to move to Londonderry because I went to high school with some of the kids from Londonderry, and I was friends with them, and I hung around in Londonderry. This has nothing to do with this development in particular, but remember, Londonderry is supposed to be a suburban town, and the more compact developments we put in, the more urbanization is on our doorstep. And I appreciate you for all you're doing. It's a tough decision, it is. I know you guys go through a lot. Just think about that, and it's the effects of this project in that area. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak? Okay, I'm going to close it. I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any further questions of the applicant?
I did have one additional question now. Just looking at the actual, map of it, there seems to be a lot of concern about the Young Road traffic and the fire station and specifically that road. Was there an option? I saw that you had an emergency only access road on the opposite side of the development. Was there any talk or any plans that could potentially flip the entrance to it and create a new road off of 102 versus off of Young Road?
So we were never really against either way. When I first came, just like any project that I'm gonna kind of either come to the planning board or go to the ZBA with, I usually meet with town staff first. When I met with Laura, I believe it was Laura, I believe it was, I'm not too sure if Nick was there, and John Trotty, the town engineer. John was the one who kind of steered me in the direction that he, when I was trying to go through the rezoning process, that he thought that I would hit a lot of speed bumps, if you will, coming in off of 102. He recommended that I try adding the property at 20, I believe, or is it 20, the Bennett property, I believe it's 20 Young Road, so that we could have the access point coming in off of that road. That was a recommendation. So that was the direction that I followed. And that was the reason that the reason we added that property to the development, so that we could try to have access off of Young Road versus having it off of 102, especially considering the speeds and stuff like that coming in off of 102. I know when Cross Farm was going through their whole development thing, the turn in and out of that was a big issue.
Right, I was just thinking, right next door, basically, to this is the Harvest Moon Road and October Lane and all of that. That's right directly off of 102. Obviously, it has more kind of setback before there's houses, but I wasn't sure if that was something that you had considered versus the Young Road option, so thank you.
I do have a question going back to a similar question that Mitch asked. So I don't see what makes this property unique as, 10 other developers come up for the same exact thing. Like, I don't see anything that would stop anybody in the town from doing the same thing that you're doing. In other words, we set a precedent here, and then, 10 other developers come and say, well, the Young Road one went in, and we basically have the same. I don't see what's What makes your lot different that this can only be done there?
We've talked about it. I think we responded to Mr. Fig's question on that the configuration of the lot, now it's laid out, its proximity to the existing homes, as well as some of the wetlands on the site. When you look at the main area of frontage on 102, which is a busy road and difficult to access for both turning directions. It may be easy to go right turn there, but not so easy to go out and go left. We think that distinguishes it from other properties.
Do I have any other questions? Are we good? Mitch, are you all set? Are you going to be stating something different than what you stated before? Are you in opposition or for? You're for it or opposed? Okay, please approach. You going to state your name and address again, please, sir?
Stephen Young, Young Road, the once great Young Road, about to be destroyed. I would, as a much less satisfactory than reducing the number of houses, still make the argument that was made just a minute ago of having the access onto 102 somewhere instead of Young Road, because I think Young Road will be a total snarl if all those cars are trying to access this development there.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, we're not opposed to that. If they wanted to add a condition that the planning board look at that and determine whether that's a more feasible option, we'd certainly be receptive to it. We don't have a preference, and as Aaron said, the reason it was laid out that way was from direction from the town engineer.
Laura, if the zoning even goes down that rabbit hole for a condition going on to 102, we're not qualified enough to even make such a stipulation.
That would not be an appropriate stipulation. If the board has major concerns for traffic as a safety issue, you could have the applicant come in with a full traffic analysis to be examined by our third-party engineer to determine what the best appropriate course of action would be for traffic. But it's not recommended that the board just put it out there without having a full traffic study being properly reviewed by all parties involved.
Thank you for your clarification. All right, are we all set on the board for this? Okay, no further questions. I'm going to bring it out to the audience one last time before I close it. Please approach.
Ann Champa, 28 Wedgewood Drive. Could I have asked the staff another question?
What question would you like?
Okay. As far as that curb cut, is this a state-recognized curb cut, full curb cut for access
That'd
and
be a
exit?
question for Nick.
The state recognized?
Yeah, because I understand if a curb cuts have to be allowed by the state of New Hampshire
If it were
on
onto-
102.
If it were on the Nashville Road, it would, because that's a state highway, but Young Road is not.
Okay, but they're talking about the exit onto 102, I thought,
It already exists.
Yeah.
suggesting, yeah, as a
But
possible.
it already exists.
Oh, a new one, yes, it did. That's beyond.
I was asking staff, is that a,
But that's beyond our purview.
but you're discussing it as a possibility. I'd like to know.
Right, any curb cuts on 102 has to be approved by the state, as Route 102 is a state road, not within the town's authority.
Okay. So it's not limited to the town, an answer by the town. It has to be on the state level.
You are correct.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there any other comments? Okay. I'm going to now close it to the public, and we're going to go into deliberations. Do you have any last comments before we go into deliberations?
No, I think we've covered it, and thank you for your time. Appreciate the time you've given it.
All right. Mitch, do we have letters? Any additional letters for this?
additional letters.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to make sure.
Do you want to take both of the voting sheets at the same time?
Yes, please.
Can call Bruce.
So Laura, we still have two voting sheets.
I always ask.
Second one.
Right, for the elderly housing one, if that's still in the file, that is not necessary. You
You
don't have to
need
do
that
anything
one,
with
okay, so
that.
that's the first one.
It's the first one.
It's only for the density. And you do have two separate case numbers, but you can do them both together.
So we can do them both on one voting sheet?
No.
Or should we
Yes, yep, you can do
Okay,
both on one.
thank you.
I didn't know the answer to the question. I've been here 3 years, so.
And there's the second one. Well, that's the findings of fact sheet, and that's the voting sheet, but those two go together. Those are the correct ones.
And it's gonna be for 3 and 4. Correct. Yep. All right, so 3.
That may make it. If you don't answer questions, you never learn.
All right, do we need to go, have any discussion prior to reviewing the 5 points of law? Does anybody need any clarification before we do that? Are we good? Okay. Let's go.
Who do we have voting, just so I'm clear?
We have Dave is voting,
I'm voting.
I'm voting, and Mitch.
Yep.
Okay. So we are going through the first request?
So,
So I think we're
Yeah.
just doing one voting sheet for both cases.
Yep.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because,
I would say would. I don't think there's a showing of no harm. I think
so we're looking
I
at
couldn't
character of the
hear.
neighborhood.
Yeah, I couldn't hear, so make sure, because we gotta really be clear so that everybody can hear. What was that, Mitch?
I said it would be contrary to.
It would be
I think there
contrary?
is harm in terms of traffic, in terms of the fire truck, in terms of the neighbors.
Dave?
I would say would be contrary also.
I agree.
Suzanne?
I agree. The issue we have is altering the character of the neighborhood.
Right.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree as well.
I disagree.
Okay, we're gonna 4-1 it.
Yep.
So are we altering the character of the neighborhood by the increase in number of,
Units or houses.
Cars, traffic.
Yes.
okay, the spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because this is the health, safety, or welfare.
And I think it,
I think it tracks the first one.
yeah, I agree.
I agree.
So the spirit of the ordinance would not be observed because,
It would threaten public health, safety, or welfare. Just getting traffic, congestion, fire, getting out.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm just getting requests if the board members could speak loudly so people can hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mitch, increase in traffic,
Fire truck access.
we didn't get in terribly into the soil issues this time, but we have the septic issues in the soil.
I don't think they.
Yeah, but they gave us
They did
the-
it, yeah, they addressed that.
They addressed it in the proposal, what they're
Because-
doing.
Because they put the conditions on there? Their proposed conditions?
No, they
No.
changed the design of what
Yeah.
they first gave us.
So now it's in compliance with Londonderry regulations? No, it is not, right? Right. So it's still outside the scope of Londonderry's requirements.
Agree. Agree.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because this is the balancing.
I would say would not. I think the public benefits more from not building the larger.
I want you to speak up.
Would not. I think the greater benefit is by not having the overly large.
I would agree.
Well, I think building at the loss to the public is greater than the gain that would. come from it.
Correct.
Yes.
You said it better.
I didn't get your vote on the first one. Were you sticking with your,
Are you talking to me?
no, I knew.
Oh. I think.
On the health, safety, and welfare, are you with the minority or are you the majority? I'm sorry, are you
I'm
talking to
with the majority.
on that one?
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay.
So granting the variance would not do substantial justice because the potential harm to the neighborhood abutters outweighs the,
To the public, yeah, to the public.
for the following reasons, the value of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished.
I'd say it probably would not.
Yeah, I don't think they would be diminished necessarily.
Would not.
I would say would,
I would say would as well.
but we can go with. Because,
Would not people have to talk?
yeah,
So I don't think, I think the only evidence on it was that the expert report that was provided, which I think in the second to last sentence indicates that it wouldn't, and also the fact that there would be would eliminate any impact, I don't think would have a negative impact on. I don't know.
Surround,
Yeah.
that's precisely how I looked at it.
I don't think, I don't think it would.
so both the buffer and the expert opinion you were
Correct.
relying
Yes.
on? Owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provisions and the specific application of that provision to the property because,
I would say there is, which is voting against.
correct.
I don't think I saw anything that really told me this property was unique in any way that would
There was
argue in
not,
favor.
there was nothing presented in,
45 units versus the amount that's allowed.
I would agree.
the applicant did not provide any unique conditions of this property in their 5 points of law either.
Does everyone feel the same way?
Yes.
I think the property is unique, just given its size and location and the wetlands and whatnot, but
I don't know if
I'll be
it's.
the one.
I'd say no.
So he's one of us.
That's fine.
Good.
That's what makes us great.
The proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because
Do we go to that if we don't get the A?
that is still A.
Oh,
Housing's reasonable.
Is that many houses in that area reasonable?
That's why we have this. Because we have to debate these things.
see, but there are no special, well, from my perspective, doesn't be if the criteria in A are not established, and it will be determined exists only if owing to the special conditions, the property cannot be reasonably used in conformance with the ordinance. I think it could be reasonably used.
Could be,
Because they're not special conditions that get us there. So I would
Correct.
Say no to B.
But housing is reasonable.
Housing is reasonable.
Correct.
Agreed 100%.
How are we going down here on numbers?
And can I just be, just so the record's clear, so that proposed use is reasonable? The question that the board should be asking is 45 units
Yes.
on that lot reasonable, not housing, 45
That's what I
units on
said,
that lot.
are the number of
No.
units being proposed reasonable?
I'd say no.
Thank you, Laura. I said that loud.
So I have to speak louder. He did, council did go into the B, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property can or cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. Can the property be used for anything else?
Yeah. You could build 26 houses there.
20.66.
20.66, right?
Yep.
Can or cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance?
It can be used as build fewer houses. I don't know if that answers the question appropriately, but it can be
Yeah, it
used.
can.
Fewer
Agree.
units.
Agree.
I do, yeah.
Agree.
I don't know that we have any comments, restrictions, et cetera.
Nope.
Nope. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 1117-2021-3 and case number 1117-2021-4, request for variances from LZO 4.2.2.3.B.1.b to allow 45 residential three-bedroom units where only 20.66 are permitted at 22 Young Road and at 20 Young Road, to deny both variances.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
I'll send that out to you.
So I think we might have an issue.
No, well,
So the motion
Yeah.
is to deny. Mark 5 against.
I mean, no, oh yeah, 5.
Right,
One of the
so
things
But
is
it's
this is a
5-4.
perfect
So
fit.
we're granting, we're,
Again, we're granting to deny it.
yes.
That's, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, wow. I flipped it.
Yeah, no,
When I-
because to deny the variance. but
This is
grant-
what ones are.
Correct.
So there's oftentimes they want to say yes, they have to say no. That's
It's
terrible.
like,
Totally understand.
say yes to say no.
The Young Road is.
Very
It's
confusing.
flipped.
But I think that if they had presented it originally.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
That would be great. I think that one of the things you sort of realize, these guys, a lot of people don't really Read forever. I know. When I did it, stuff was much worse. Yeah. No, I think that's great.
Okay.
Yes. See, when I did Atkins,
It's still
right,
there, though.
they had stuff, it was bad. We first my wife got gout, and gout sucks. What? I get it. And so I've always eaten healthy, but I didn't use too much and too often, and snacks. And those are what I basically did. It is. Oh, I love the lobster. You like lobster? Oh, no.
No, I was just wondering because it's really high
Not
range,
everybody in
right?
New England loves lobster. They're crazy.
I was on Martha's Vineyard the weekend of the 1st of April.
Ready?
I'm ready.
And
I'm ready. We'll pick that up at the next break.
Case number 12-15-2021-8, a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.b.1 to allow a lot with 100.58 feet of frontage where 150 feet are required, 8 Wiley Hill Road, map 5, lot 28, zone AR1, Belize Real Estate Holding LLC, owner and applicant, continued from the March 16th, 2022 meeting.
Madam Chair, I have to recuse.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie, who's gonna vote in this one?
So there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, there'll be 5 of us.
Yes, and none of us.
Bill, you all set on this one?
Is it a continuance?
Yes, from the
Yeah,
December.
I'll step out of this one too, since everyone else is.
Okay,
Unless one of the
so,
alternate wasn't here.
I can't.
Yeah, he wasn't here then
He wasn't,
either.
yeah, this is from December.
okay, so Dave, okay.
Guess I'm back in.
So Dave, you'll be voting. I'm sorry. We're all set.
Thank you.
No, we have, Dave is going to be, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Doug McGuire, and I'm with the Dubay Group here representing the applicants and owners of the property. So just to refresh the board's memory on where we've gone on this particular application, we originally submitted in December of last year, and at that particular meeting, getting close to the holidays, we had a short board. We only had a 3-member board with one of the members recusing themselves. So we asked to be continued. We were continued to the January hearing, of which we had our first public hearing. Went through the criteria with the board, and I know it's been some time, so I'm happy to maybe quickly refresh if the board would like.
Excuse me one second, Laura, so I wasn't at the January meeting, I've read all the.
Right, as long as the
Okay.
standard is if you read the minutes and you're familiar
Okay.
prior to your application, you feel comfortable with
Okay, that's fine, thanks.
And so, basically, after we went through the criteria, I don't think there was a lot of questions about the criteria, but if there's new questions, I'm happy to answer those. One of the items that we touched upon was site distance. There was concerns about traffic at the intersection of Wiley Hill Road and High Range Road. And we had put together a site distance plan and profile, and we submitted that at that night. Engineering and planning had reviewed that preliminarily and had some comments. And so we ultimately requested a continuance to work with staff on that site distance plan and profile. We had resubmitted in that following month. There were a couple other additional items that came up with engineering, so we requested a continuance there. And then at the March hearing, unfortunately, we only had 2 members, so we were continued again, and here we are today. So I guess what I'd say is I'm happy to refresh the board on the application, the merits of the application. Do we have a copy of the aerial overview with you? Okay. So essentially, the highlighted area is the area where the frontage relief that we're looking for. To remind the board, this was a lot that had some irregular shape to it, as you can see, And I think it's important to note that that irregular shape is not created by this lot, but rather the abutting lot. There was a subdivision that was done. The piece that juts into our property effectively was its own lot, dating back all the way to the mid to late 1920s, from what my surveyor's research showed. Ultimately, I think in like the late 60s, that parcel was consolidated with the larger parcel next to it, nothing to do with our property, and ultimately that was subdivided in as a subdivision that you see, that ultimately that 4-lot subdivision. So they utilized that area for their frontage, even though it's not necessarily a standard-shaped lot. They utilize that for their frontage. What we're looking to do is get relief, because we do have 100 feet of frontage, we don't have the required 150 feet, but as you can see, the moment you get back basically past the building setback, which you wouldn't be any closer to anyway, out of the ordinary with the surrounding environment, you have several homes that are closer together than some of these within the area. This is, as I said, a pretty nicely shaped lot. It would meet all the other requirements of a single-family lot if it were to be subdivided, meaning lot size, building setbacks, any other dimensional criteria that would be related to the development of this lot. And we obviously recognize that if this board were to act in favor of this variance application, we would then need to move forward to the planning board and do a subdivision plan. And in the town of Londonderry, the planning board does have a pretty robust review of even a single lot subdivision. They do require drainage analysis to be done. The site distance plan and profile would be reviewed thoroughly through staff again at that stage. Lot sizing, septic calculations, any of those other items that would be applicable. So by no means would this be a finished product. I know there were abutters that came at the last hearing, had concerns about traffic and the driveway and some drainage concerns, and all of those items we would obviously be working with staff at first through design review and then going forward to the subdivision application with the planning board. And so we feel that we do meet the criteria of the variance. Do you want, as a board, do you want me to quickly go through those, or it's up to?
We've already gone through.
already gone through.
Are you good? Okay.
Okay.
We're all set.
Okay. And so, I feel that on the criteria of the variance, I think this project does meet those criteria. And so with that, I'll turn it back to the board and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions of the applicant at this time?
So as far as the site view study, what is the outcome of that?
So we've gone back and forth with engineering through a couple different reviews. There were some additional questions asked about certain separations that weren't listed on the plan. Everything has been addressed on the plan. The plan that, the last plan that was submitted does fully meet the site distance requirements. It proposes a modification to a portion of the guardrail, which is within the town's right-of-way. Just to educate this board, because I know you probably don't review these plans, it's more of a planning board purview item, but it's very typical through any development that I've been involved with, that when you do the site distance profiles, there are certain requirements that come out of that may need to be adjusted, whether it's vegetation that needs to be trimmed back, modification of where you place the driveway, any type of obstructions that can be worked within. That's not an issue unless that requirement would be on private property. Then you would require an easement to do that work, and that would be a prerequisite that would need to be done prior to. So in this case, we don't see any issue with that. that the modification of the guardrail section is within the town's right-of-way. It's only a small section of that portion of the guardrail, and it only is required to be modified to meet one of the site distance criteria. You require two different site distance profiles, one from the intersection of the driveway looking out in both directions at the incoming traffic, and that site distance is easily met. No issues whatsoever, no obstructions, nothing. The second tier of requirement is you have a test where you are at the car level, where the approaching car, and you're looking at a object at the edge of the roadway that is a half a foot off the ground. And so I don't fully understand the rationale behind it. In talking with engineering, I think the thought is that if there was like a ball rolling out into the road, that would be that low. You wouldn't be able to see the ball unless you could see it that half a foot high. So what I can tell you is we can see all of about 2 inches in the current condition as it stands. You revise the guardrail post, and you can see the full 6 inches. If there's any concerns about the site distance, I did bring site photos that I personally went and took because we actually went out, measured it, not only with survey equipment, but also physically measured and took photographs of the site distance that's available. So I have those for you if there's any concerns or if you'd like to get a better visual yourself of the site distance. But with that, we feel that, we have a safe condition, and it would be something that would ultimately be further reviewed anyway with the planning board.
Yeah, because I know that's a tough corner right there.
Believe it or not, and I don't disagree with you, being out there personally, where we're proposing our driveway is actually in a better location than Wiley Hill Road itself. We're on the apex of the curve. You can see the best in both directions. The inside of the curve, I'm sure the abutters would attest. I mean, there's very difficult situation with site distance. In this particular location, it does have a good availability of site distance. In fact, in the photos, you can see well beyond 250 feet from the intersection, which is beyond what would be required. The Wiley Hill Road intersection itself doesn't meet the town standard. I measured that as well just to review. It is a little short, which it does require more. It's 365 feet as opposed to 250 for a residential driveway, but Wiley Hill is tight. So I can see the concern, but I think for a single driveway and in the location at the apex of the curve that we're proposing, I think it's a safe situation.
Can I address the board?
Yes, please.
As far as the width of the right-of-way, that hasn't been determined. John Trotter, our town engineer, who's been in town for many years, has some serious questions about the width of the road because it's an original road. It's not necessarily a standard width road. And so we feel that there should be better documentation of the lot lines and the width of the town right-of-way to make sure that that guardrail is in the town right-of-way. And as it stands right now, it doesn't meet the site distance where the guardrail is, and staff is not sure that it can be moved legally.
Now, you have not presented anything in your packet in which substantiates everything that you've just told the board about the site of distance and the guardrail, and there's a lot of assumption here. So nothing in our packet is concrete as to that guardrail and that line of sight. So this is all
Both just said two
speculation.
different things. He said it doesn't meet it. and
It
you
doesn't
said
meet it, yeah.
does.
And you haven't presented anything in your packet that it does meet it.
Okay, well, I mean,
Because you're speculating.
well, no, definitely not speculating, to be
I
clear.
don't have anything in your packet that can substantiate anything that you're telling us.
Well, we've submitted to staff over 2 weeks ago this updated site distance plan.
But the
So-
guardrail and the line of sight for the guardrail, it doesn't meet the criteria.
Well, it doesn't, to be clear, we're talking about one test of the site distance and we're talking about one post of the guardrail, and we're talking about 3 inches. But with that being said, it does meet the test because it can be moved.
Wait a minute. You have to, in order for us to accept anything, you must give us documentation as to what it is that you are saying can be done. And none of that is here with us tonight for documentation. That is not, we don't have anything that is of official record of where that guardrail is, whether the town, it's on the town road, Wiley Hill Road itself, and that turn and line of sight. I go up it a lot, coming off of Wiley Hill and then trying to, make a left-hand turn, making a right, okay, but making a left, you got some issues here. You're right there. So we lack the documentation for everything that you're telling us because we have a complete different set of standards in which Nick is telling us is
Well, no,
for this property.
Well, with all due respect, I've been working with engineering for 2 months on this site distance profile, this one plan.
You haven't given us anything.
I haven't been asked for that.
I have to say, the town should know where their right-of-way is.
I have
know
not
why.
been asked by staff, until Nick just said that, I have not been asked about proving where the guardrail of the town's road is. I will tell you, I know you don't want my speculative without, documentation, but my surveyor, a licensed land surveyor in the state of New Hampshire, reviewed that lot in question.
You
and
didn't give us any of that.
I think the guardrail
I
just came
understand.
up tonight. I don't remember hearing anything about a guardrail before.
The guardrail was an issue before.
Was it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what the board is, I guess what I'm understanding from the board is that you're looking for documentation of the right-of-way. We'll prove that out with documentation. We'll officially request that this plan, which you should have had in your packets, to be honest with you, is included in your packet. Because, as I said, it's been in front of staff for over 2 weeks. So well within time frame for this to be as part of your packet. I guess all I'm looking for, I want to give this board what you need to be comfortable in making your decision, but I do need to be directed as to what you're looking for specifically, because Mr. Trottier has reviewed this for 2 months, and I haven't heard anything about a location of a site, of where the guardrail was, or contesting that the guardrail can be moved. We've had a right-of-way line on this plan from day one, showing where the right-of-way limit for this site distance profile is. That's been from day one. So, to me, that's sufficient. It's been on there, we're showing it's within the town's right-of-way. If Mr. Trottier has a concern about that, that really should have been brought up in a review memo, which I have not seen.
So I'm not going to start debating what happened in the past. I can just tell you what I need tonight,
Fair enough.
okay? Is everyone okay with asking for more information and to be very precise on what we need for this?
I am. Should we point him to you, Nick? Like, who can he work with at the town level to get whatever he needs?
Well, that would be the Public Works, but I can relay it to them, yes.
Can I just offer some clarification? I think there might be some misunderstanding about what has happened.
Okay,
So,
yes, please.
I just want to summarize to make sure that we're all on the same page. The board wanted a site distance profile because of safety concerns with our criteria 1 and 2. Absolutely. Mr. McGuire gave one. There were concerns that it wasn't stamped. I think I reiterated some of the concerns that we had during one of our first meetings, that there was some stuff that still needed to be done. So Doug and John, they went back and forth and they were working together. And John's role is to say, do you or do you not meet the site distance profile given the current existing conditions? He does not.
Correct.
So that's where we are. We have a site distance plan that's in your packet. He does not meet the site distance regulations per town site plan regulations. So now the question becomes, and I think what Mr. McGuire is saying, well, I can meet them if I move the guardrail. And the concern is, well, and that's for the board to decide, is that something that the board thinks should be done, and now town staff has concerns about moving the guardrail, because that's gonna be moving it closer to that house. I'm assuming everybody's familiar with the house in question that we're talking about, and I'll just pull it up so everybody can see.
Can I just ask a question as well, real quick, while you're getting that? The guardrail poses the problem for the line of sight?
Look at the
No,
house
I'm
right
looking at the same
Yeah.
thing, I know. But from where this driveway would be, is the guardrail the thing that's in the way of the line of sight?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
so-
was my question, thank
So
you.
here's the guardrail in question that we have here. So the question becomes, what Mr. McGuire is proposing is moving this part of the guardrail further into this person's yard.
Well, within the right-of-way.
That is
That's,
100% established.
that's
that
in
the
question.
is the right of way.
That's the
But
question.
Even so, there's the competing interest of moving a guardrail closer, and this actually, I think, makes it look like there's more space in between the guardrail and the house than what there is, and that footage is unknown. But the concern from the town staff is whether or not, the town should be infringing on somebody else's property, right? By moving the guardrail, and what is the impact of moving that guardrail closer to somebody's house? Is there an impact that's gonna have safety concerns for the people who own this house?
Correct.
So that's where I believe that we're at, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody kind of understood the facts, how they're being presented. And John has been working with Doug to do that, but John can't say hypothetically that, well, if you move the guardrail this, John has to look at the current conditions as they exist. Do you or do you not meet the site distance requirements of the town? Right now, no, he does not.
Thank you.
So why would the town not know where their right-of-way is?
The town hasn't looked into see where the right of way, this is an old road right here, one of the existing roads. So the deed to this property does not indicate any right of way that the town has. Typically, if you see subdivision plans, you'll see that there's the road and then there's an easement that the town's given to maintain that. So what could happen is you could have a viatic use that the town has to keep the road safe here. But is there a dedicated right of way that was given to the town? There's not anything showing from a preliminary review at the registry of deeds, so you're not gonna find that on a subdivision plan or anything else like that, that the board may be familiar with seeing before. When we have a subdivision plan, we put the road in, the town gets an easement for a right of way or to use it, so you have that buffer where the town can do drainage, they can, keep roads safe. Here, it's believed that this could be just part of the viatic use of the road, just to keep it safe, and this guardrail is installed on on the owner's property to keep cars from coming this way and crashing into the house.
Does anyone else have any questions? So do you think that you can research this and find whether there is a right-of-way?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I mean, my survey already did, but I have to provide that to the board, and I can understand that. I also will plan to provide some photographs of the area, not to belittle the issue, but I think when you see a photograph where you can see me standing at the edge of the roadway, and the only thing you can't see is the Nike swoosh on my sneaker, but you can see me clear as day, I think, to me, sight distance isn't really a concern. I mean, we have to remember that the guardrail is something that is providing, at a snapshot at 250 feet, it's providing an obscuring of the 6 inches, only 2 of the 6 inches, but it's obscuring that bit of 6 inches. If you go beyond that, you can see. If you go a little before, you can see. And what we're saying is, we're fine adjusting the guardrail if that's a concern. I would be comfortable that this meets the intent of the sight distance as presented, without moving the guardrail. But if we're going right to the letter of the law, and the guardrail could be moved slightly, and frankly, I would look at that as a improvement to the situation of safety, because we're not proposing, the guardrail section that is directly in front of the residence is not being moved at all. We're not putting that closer to their front door. the area beyond their house, where the guardrail continues to extend beyond the limits of the house, we're proposing to bring that more to the right slightly by about 2.5 feet. Now, that will actually protect from, I mean, if there's some inadvertent, like, someone pulls into the intersection and the other person veers off from the left, coming from the north southbound, it would actually protect the house better in that location. So I don't look at that as a detriment, but I guess what I'm gonna ask is, and I don't know if the board can provide me with any feedback now, just based on your initial review of this, but, I mean, if you're concerned with the guardrail because we don't want to infringe on any existing rights of the space that they've enjoyed, even if it is in the right-of-way, I'm comfortable, I can show you these photographs, and I can show you on our plan, that the intent of the site distance is met. So, I mean, if we do want, you know, could I get maybe a straw poll from the board of, is there concern with moving the guardrail, or you just want more information?
So first and foremost, the guardrail is there for safety.
Correct.
This is a very narrow road. It's an original road. And whether or not that guardrail is in that right-of-way, and whether or not your proposal to move it infringes upon someone else's property, it's, again, we're touching all the 5 points of law that, you know, say this is not acceptable.
You're saying that you want to have the facts to show
You
whether,
have to provide this board, when you come for a variance, you must give us all the information that you have available to you at that time, in which you can plead your case as to why this variance should be granted. And you must meet the 5 criteria of law for it. It's not for us to find it out for you. You must give us the information.
totally understood. The 5 criteria, I don't know where the site distance plan and profile review from an engineering standpoint necessarily falls into that. I think that's a planning board issue.
That
And it
is
would
a
be required-
safety issue.
And if I could just interject, because just for clarification, sometimes the zoning board's purview can coincide with what the planning board does. So the zoning board has within its right, as you already did, if you have a safety concern, which is criteria 1 and 2, to ask for a site distance profile, and Mr. McGuire is right, that is done also at the planning board level, but you as the zoning board can absolutely ask to have that and make sure that site distance is met. And I know there's been discussion about the intent being met, but it really has to be, the regulations have to be met. And that's why John Trotter, doing his due diligence, has not said that site distance has been met.
So we will need proof of
Can I
that.
just ask, how far away is the driveway to the guardrail? Did you say it was 250 feet?
The driveway is about halfway between the site distance. The site distance, picture the sight line as an imaginary line that you're looking through directly out 250 feet. The last post of the guardrail infringes on one of the 250-foot marks. So if you slide that back, it would no longer conflict.
So you have 249 feet of sightline? Is that accurate?
No, we easily have, we easily achieve the site distance, as I said, the 250 feet looking left and right, you see far beyond that, you easily get it. The second test of the site distance, which is this looking at a 6-inch ball on the ground, that, because of the angle that you're looking down to the ground from your car, the top edge of the guardrail encroaches that slightly through your sight line.
Right. Do you know the distance from the driveway to that post?
That's what I was asking.
If you look at the plan behind, I can't do it to scale, but where my cursor is, this is the driveway, proposed driveway. And you're going all the way, here's where, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, the 250 site distance line ends.
Correct.
And here's the guardrail.
Where's the guardrail? Sorry.
Yep, so here's where the 250 sight line, that's the end of the line, right? So from the driveway, from here, that line is 250. And then right here
Oh,
is the guardrail.
okay.
We still don't
well
have,
within-
we still don't know the answer.
So it's probably about
No,
150
but-
approximately.
It's not 249 feet.
No,
Well,
it's-
I guess what I would argue, and I'll provide some additional information because I'm getting feedback and I'm understanding where you're coming from. We actually exceed the site distance requirement substantially in that direction. It's
Excluding
just at that exact pinpoint of 250 feet, you're having a conflict looking down at the 6-inch item. So if I go back 300 feet, I can see better. I mean, which is kind of, so when you say, what do you have for available site distance? I have 300, I have 280, I don't have 250, I have then 230, so it's a snapshot, and we're trying to meet the intent of the regulations, but we also have to look at this from a standpoint of, what you truly have for site distance and what is the intent of that. Now, I need to get you that information. I'll provide the updates to the right-of-way information from my surveyor. I'll provide a full package that, I'll request that Laura put in your packets for the following hearing. I'll have the site distance in there. I'll have some site photographs for you, and I'll have that legal information. And hopefully with that will allow you to evaluate.
Does anybody else need anything else for him to come
I
back?
don't know how many feet we are from the guardrail that we're talking about.
That'll be
Because
included
if it's
as-
an expensive amount, then I don't care about the guardrail.
That he'll need to clarify that.
Right.
So make sure you have that. Okay? That distance. Mitch, do you need anything else from him?
No,
For the next
good.
meeting? Okay, everyone's all set?
I have one additional question, and it's more for us. Do we have the ability to find out if that guardrail can be moved as well?
That is what he's gonna provide for us.
Okay,
The
perfect.
documentation, exactly where that guardrail is,
You
and
can approach the homeowner if it's not in the right of way.
he's gotta do.
There's other options.
Yeah, you've gotta do
We'll provide that, and hopefully we'll get it in enough time that Mr. Trotter can review and weigh in on it.
So I need someone to make a motion to continue the case till the May 5th hearing with the documents that we need.
Not May 5th, what's the date?
It's May, no, I'm sorry.
Oh.
May 18th.
May, that's overflow, May 18th, sorry.
Let me just double check that, just to make sure. Yes, May 18th.
May 18th, okay? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 12-15-2021-8, the request for variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.b.1 to allow a lot with 100.58 feet of frontage where 150 feet are required, 8 Wiley Hill Road, map 5, lot 28, zoned AR1, Belize Real Estate Holding LLC, owner and applicant, to continue the hearing to the May 18th zoning board of adjustment hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see you
Thank
May
you.
18th.
Someone's raising their hand. Continued.
This time.
Jackie, before you dismiss the case, you just had somebody who wanted to submit something to you. I know you didn't take public input.
8 copies. The one I wrote on.
Or will we add it to the agenda for the next meeting?
Just one copy.
Yes.
Okay.
There's 8 copies?
She had 8 copies, I think one for each of you. Do you want?
There's
Is that-
only one.
No, she just gave me one. She has it. I can
Oh,
scan
okay.
it and send it, or if you want to hand it out now, sure.
Would I be able to get a copy of that?
Everybody likes a copy. Too much paper. No, these people just don't understand.
I submitted a letter the last time. So the one that she just gave you is that one guardrail.
There's only one left, I'll give it to my buddy, because I'm not gonna be here anyway.
No, so, but I just thought maybe they would like to have that.
Oh, you
Yep,
can.
so I'll scan it.
Do you need one?
Yeah, the next hearing. Because that's a little big issue.
Okay.
Of course.
Right, so he knows the next hearing. So Doug will get a copy of it. You know, vacancies for the next hearing.
Okay, six.
Maybe 18th, the third Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Okay.
There's one more.
Right, keep calling me whenever I get started, you know.
Yeah,
check it.
I just wanted, that was right.
Right, no?
Again, this is sort of,
Yeah, so for the hearing, they come up, and then people for or against the
Okay,
usual.
and we'll probably be the first ones up.
You will be.
Thank you very much.
if it's the same, once you change your own grants, then one shot, you're done. So sometimes if they change it substantially,
That's it.
I don't think they're gonna
Gonna go to the next one?
Yep.
I think
Case number 420, 2022-1, a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.1 to encroach 25 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a shed, 13 Thornton Road, map 6, lot 99-79, zoned AR1, Harmony Barasa and Eric Harris, owners and applicants.
But I mean, when I see the legal, I'm good.
Gentlemen,
I trust you.
gentlemen, we're here in our next case. Mitch?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
Please state your name for the record.
Eric Paris.
Harmony Barasa. And who will be presenting?
I will.
You may proceed.
So we're basically, as stated, looking to get 25, a variance of 25 feet into the 40-foot setback for a placement of a shed that we have on our property. We were unaware, we're new to the town, so we weren't quite sure of the proceedings. When we actually put the shed in place, so we have already set it, it is set. We had gravel placed down and everything, unaware that we were encroaching on any sort of issues. So at this point, we're just looking to, like I said, have a variance granted, and just seeing what the concerns are, if, you know, we can get that approved, basically. What you guys need for the approval of that.
Do you have the paperwork that you filled out
We
with
do.
you?
We do.
So you just go through the 5 points of law, starting with number 1.
Sure. So basically, is the first one, you know, being public interest. It doesn't change the essential character of the neighborhood, nor does it threaten the health or safety or welfare of any of the general public. The shed is aesthetically pleasing in structure and color. It is not on any sort of slope easement and is set back enough to not crowd the frontage of the property. Let's see. As far as the spirit, our request is to reduce the frontage requirement for only 12 feet, right? With 135 feet of frontage allowing, the other 123 feet will remain unobstructed and no overcrowding will result. As far as the substantial justice, the loss to us as homeowners would pretty much outweigh any gain to the public. Letters were signed by all the butters stating that they were unconcerned with the placement of the shed at this point. You know, the values of the surrounding properties, the shed and the landscaping around it will be tastefully and aesthetically pleasing while still maintaining the architectural character of the neighborhood. You know, as far as the enforcement, so it looks like, you know, we do have some hardships, and all the property is unique due to hills, slopes, large trees and wetlands. There really is no other place to put the shed on the property. we really only have one other flat spot, and that is our leach field, which is directly to the left of the shed. We're surrounded by wetlands, we have decent slopage, so that's really kind of, where we're stuck at putting it, as to where we placed it. But yeah, I mean, that's really, I think that pretty much covers most of what we're looking for. If you have any concern, any questions, or be more than happy to.
How big is the shed?
It's 10 by 12.
1 by 12, yeah.
Does anybody
9
have?
inches to the peak of the shed, the very
Okay.
peak.
Does anybody have any questions?
When I drive up Thornton, you drive around, it is a hilly road.
It is.
I thought I saw like a pond, there's a pond near you.
That's my
the
property.
wetlands,
That
yeah.
is my wet.
That is our property, that's the end of our
Is it-
property.
Since everyone's a hill, is your property really unique from your neighbors? I mean, aside from the
Absolutely.
wetlands?
It is.
Absolutely.
I'll speak to this point. I've actually contacted 3 separate landscapers to try and do something with the back of our property or the side.
Right.
And 2 of them wouldn't even quote us. They said, we can't do it. One actually tried to bring in a backhoe and went about 2 feet toward the back and came back out. He said, I'm gonna fall down the hill if I go any further.
So there's the big hill right,
It's-
Too steep.
how
yeah.
far back behind your home?
In the back of the house, it's only about 15 feet from our deck area. So he couldn't do anything. He couldn't maneuver around or anything. He
The other
went right back
houses
out.
on the road have more backyard.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
Our yard basically is our leach field. That's our yard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Any
for
other
now.
questions?
So you said the shed is already there?
Yes.
It is.
Unfortunately, we didn't know about this, and Norma from the building department contacted us, and she's the one who told us to come before you and apply for this.
For the
and-
variance itself,
Because
yeah.
we didn't know about this. So now we're aware, and
Yeah.
we're trying to follow the proper procedures.
We just moved to town a little over a year ago, and this is our first, foray with
Yeah.
here,
Oh.
so.
I didn't drive by, but where is the placement of the shed right now?
So it is.
There's a picture in the document where we kind of drew it.
Yeah.
I don't know which page it is.
131 on that list, on that document.
Yeah.
It's right kind of in front of our leach field there. The pipe, the vent pipe for the leach field is within a foot of the shed.
So on the backside of
So
that
we
shed,
can't go
it-
any further onto that.
it slopes down pretty drastically right on the backside there. Yeah, so it really, my whole backside of my yard just falls off as it works around the house. And then with the leach field being where it is, it kind of took up any sort of flat space we had available to us.
Okay, I see it now.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. I'll take it out to the general public. Is there anyone in favor that would like to speak? Let the record show that there is no one. Is
There
there?
are 3 letters.
There's 3
in
letters?
favor.
Okay. Please read those.
So the first, and I believe there's 3 different people signed this letter. It's dated March 10th, 2022. Hello, my name is Harmony. My fiance Eric and I are your neighbors at 13 Thornton Road. You are receiving this letter as an abutter. Your property borders ours to our property. We are writing to inform you that we will be going before the zoning board for a variance regarding our shed placement. Due to our property hardships consisting of hill slopes, forestry, and wetlands, as well as our leach field, we are limited to where we can place our shed. We need to encroach into the 40-foot setback requirement of the town. Keeping our neighbors in mind, we have picked a quality shed and made sure it is neutral color that can be painted to match our home to keep with the aesthetics of the neighborhood. We are open to any conversations or concerns you may have regarding the placement of the shed. I can be reached at 978-726-6943, or we can have a conversation in person if you prefer. If you are unconcerned with this matter and do not have any objections to the placement of the shed, we ask that you please fill out your name and address below and sign and date for our records, as we would like to present these statements to the board. You can place them in the provided envelope and then place it in our mailbox or give them to us personally. Please return to us no later than March 17th, 2022. I appreciate any help and consideration to this matter. And that was signed by Shannon Barnett, who's at 3 Ashley Drive, Londonderry, New Hampshire, Diane and Gerald Barron, who are at 11 Thornton Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire, and Kimberly Gillingham, who is at 12 Thornton Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire. There's also, I believe it's just one letter, March 9th, 2022, Town of Londonderry Zoning Board of Adjustment regarding letter in support of variance request. Dear Zoning Board members, my name is Shannon Barnett. I live at 3 Ashley Drive with my husband, Kevin Barnett. I am writing this letter in support of our neighbors, Eric Paris and Harmony Barras' request for a variance regarding the placement of a shed at 13 Thornton Road. The shed they have chosen is very nice and the desired placement is ideal from our viewpoint. The shed does not obstruct our view of Thornton Road from our house in any way. Please accept this letter of support on our behalf. And it's signed by Kevin and Shannon Barnett.
There's an email as well.
I believe the email is not in
So is there anyone opposed?
Would you please read the opposition letter?
Yes. Dated Monday, March 7th, 2022, from Ed Gorman to Laura Gandier. Town of Londonderry Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'm writing today to register against the variance that is being requested from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.1, requesting a variance for the construction of a shed at 13 Thornton Road. 1, my first objection is that the town sent the letter approximately 1 to 2 months after the shed had been constructed. These kinds of things should certainly be done prior to the shed being put up. 2, in the application it is stated that the shed does not change the essential character of the neighborhood. I maintain that it does change the essential character of the neighborhood. There are 11 homes between the beginning of our neighborhood at the corner of Courier and Thornton Road. 10 of them have sheds on their property. All of them, except this one, have sheds either on the side of the house or behind the house. There's nothing wrong with the shed per se, it just doesn't belong in the front yard. The character of the neighborhood is single-family homes with detached garages or unattached garages, not with sheds dotting the front yards. Substantial justice is not done, as this shed could easily be moved to the side of the house or to the rear with a little digging or excavation to make a level site. I had to employ a small backhoe for 2 hours to make the site for my shed so it would fit behind our home. It is not right to have one shed in the whole neighborhood be out in the middle of the front yard. 4, there is a substantial chance that property values will be reduced by having sheds in the front yard that could be and should be on the side or back of the house, hence the need for a variance. There is a different feel to the neighborhood with structures dotting the front yard versus ones with outbuildings at least tucked away as much as possible. 5, the property is not unique, as most homes in the neighborhood have uneven lots. All the other homes have gone to some effort to make sure we don't put our sheds where they would create a downward trend in aesthetics of the neighborhood. I am unable to attend the 3/16/2022 meeting due to a previous commitment. I would hope the zoning board does not allow this to continue by virtue of constructing the shed and asking for a variance. Edward J. Gorman Jr., 14 Thornton Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire.
And do we have any other opposition? Okay, let the record show there is none. Bringing it back to the board, do we have any other questions for the applicant?
Just one, at least on my end. Was there any possibility of putting it to the left of the house facing it?
The left of the house is right on the other
Our neighbor.
neighbor's.
Our neighbor's property
Diane
line.
Barron's property line.
Okay.
We have maybe 10 feet on the side of our house.
Okay.
It would be right on top of their property.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make one note in the opposition letter? I just want to show that I also submitted on 3/12, after I sent a letter to him, he did sign my letter of non-opposition. I don't know if anything changed after that, but that was signed after his first opposition letter.
And he did, and it's noted, and just because it might be some confusion regarding the dates, this case was first in front of the board for a March hearing, and the shed was built without getting the appropriate permits, so the shed was in existence, so that's what he's referring to. And then, because that happened, code enforcement went out, and the variance application was submitted, found out that it was actually encroaching more than what they asked for in their March applications. That application was withdrawn, and then they filed a new application showing a greater encroachment for April. So the gentleman's letter here was submitted for the March application, and when I told him that what happened, he was still in opposition to it and asked that I take that letter and put it into the April case file. Now, if you look at the letter that Harmony said that he signed, he did sign it, but then he says, please see attached sheet, and I don't have an attached sheet, so I'm not quite sure what would be on that attached sheet.
That was a letter that he had wrote to me personally, just saying he thought that we could do some work in the back to move it, basically. That's what
Essentially
it come
stating
down
what
to.
he had stated to you guys.
Basically what he said to you.
Okay. So the way we have it is we have his March 7th email attached to his, what he signed that you wrote.
So I do have a question, and I do know you've got quite a bit of work in which to push it back. And because it's not to scale and you're doing your best on this hand drawing, encroaching that much into that 40-foot setback, again, for safety concerns, road, traffic, should, you know, and the amount of, there would be greater effort if you could just push it more towards the leach field.
I'm right on my leach field. I'm actually,
It's
my
right
vent
next
pipe,
to the vent
my
pipe.
vent pipe is on the other side of this shed. There is no
We can't even
coming.
move a foot. It's right next to it.
I actually put it there to hide the vent pipe so that you didn't actually have to see that from the road.
So the way that you've got it in your drawing, if you put the shed differently so that it faced, because you've got it drawn at an angle. If
It is
you-
at an angle, yes.
If you,
Put it straight.
if you put it more straight on,
It is. So you're looking at
I'm just looking at your drawing.
this one?
Yep.
This,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
can I show you how it actually, so she's got it where it actually looks like it's facing the house.
Yes.
It actually, if you look at my property, that line that's on the backside, it's actually facing, so it's not facing this way. So the dotted line behind it, you see the
Yes.
dotted line behind it, it is actually parallel to that. It actually looks like it's facing out that way.
So it's facing the
It's
street.
flush with
So
the hills,
it's not
so
facing
that
the street, it's facing my driveway.
it's facing
so
the
the
house and the driveway
Yeah,
area.
it's-
Side of it is
So it's at a
facing
very
the street.
slight angle, but
Correct, the
so is
door
your
is
driveway.
facing my
and the road.
driveway, it's not towards the street.
So it's not like the picture depicts, it's more facing to the driveway.
Correct,
Yes,
it's facing our property.
house and the driveway. It's not facing the road.
Yeah,
We tried to angle it so that less of it was kind of visible from the road.
that's a bit extreme angle.
Yeah,
It is.
it was, so I
It's-
was like,
It's,
okay.
it's more to the
That's my
driveway, so
drawing,
we have
I
the lawnmower,
apologize.
we take the lawnmower out and it's just kind of, yeah. We're not trying to make it so we have to go into the street to use it at all. We're on our property and,
And it's actually 55 feet because of that 15-foot mark. That's why we had to redo it. I had spoken with Laura and Norma. I sat with her, and we went over the drawings and stuff, and she informed us about the 15 feet on top of the 40, so.
Did you see the pictures of the house?
Yeah.
And that note is actually from Norma right on there. She measured out, she came out and measured to help us out, and she said it's 23, we said 25, just in case, because she said she's not perfect, neither are we, so.
Is there any other questions? Any questions, gentlemen?
No.
All good? Okay. All right, we're gonna go into deliberations.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to bring to the board's attention one other thing that's contained in, there is a slope easement, if you look at behind, there's a slope easement in front of, so this is the road and the house is here, but they do have a slope easement that comes this way. So I just wanted the board to be aware of that. Now, that is delineated on here, but it's not delineated on any of the material that the applicant presented.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind, that if the board is inclined to grant it, an appropriate condition would be to say that it's not in the slope easement. In case it is, it gives us enforcement to have that removed.
Were we told it was not?
Yeah, Norma told us it was not, but again, I don't know how much say there is for something she told us.
So right now, it's not in the slope easement?
I can't say it is, and we can't say it's not. I mean, if you look at this, you can see where it is, but that would be up for them to have it properly surveyed.
Okay.
And to do that, that has not been done, so the shed is existing. We can make an educated guess,
Okay.
which we don't want to do, because if we are incorrect,
Yep.
then that's something that we, we wouldn't want to put somebody in that position. But there is a slope easement in the front of the property that there can be no structures.
Okay, very good. All right, so just as we go through the 5 points of law, keep that in mind for our last for comments or conditions.
Just gonna go.
Yep.
Okay. Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because,
I would say would not. I think that it really, one shed, and I drove past it more than once. It blends in with the trees right near it. It doesn't seem to change anything in the neighborhood.
I agree.
I agree.
I disagree. I don't
Okay.
know. Am I voting even?
No, you're not,
Well, just
I think,
because.
Bill, you're voting, right?
This is a new one.
This is.
Yeah. I'm voting simple manner.
are you okay with the shed?
Sure.
I'm gonna say that it would be contrary, but I understand that the rest of you said it would not. And why would it not? Doesn't alter the character of the neighborhood, it blends in.
Does not threaten any public rights,
We don't know that.
No threat to public safety.
public safety.
What's our next one? Not, which is kind of important. Does not alter the character of the neighborhood, blends in. The spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because,
I would say would, for the same reasons as number one.
would
I agree.
oh, I would say would too, but that's a health and safety issue. So,
Mitch?
He agreed.
Yep.
Are you, what are you asking me?
If you agree.
Oh, I agree.
I didn't hear you.
I'm not speaking up loud enough today.
I know. Usually you do.
I know, I gotta practice.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because,
I would say it would.
Would.
agree, Bill? Benefit to the applicant?
Yeah, I think the benefit to the applicant outweighs any loss to the public.
For the following reasons, the value of surrounding properties would or would not be diminished.
Would not.
Agree.
That question always gets me. I'll agree.
It's tough, it's very subjective.
Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because.
Property is unique as compared to others in the surrounding neighborhood.
And the proposed use is or is not a reasonable one?
It's reasonable to have a shed.
Is. Randy, is it reasonable?
Sheds are reasonable.
I'm very happy you see it that way.
Okay, restrictions?
The applicant states that the shed is 10 feet by 12 feet, so not to be any greater than 10 by 12 for a dimension.
It's not in the
Not to encroach in the,
easement
Yeah,
zone?
that's the second part.
Oh, that's the second.
well remembering.
So the first is size and not to be located in.
10 by 12?
Yep.
No slope easement. Okay,
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 420-2022-1 to grant the request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.1 to encroach 25 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a shed 13 Ford Road.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Bill, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
aye.
Size and not to encroach in the easement.
There's two there, that's the other one.
Yep.
Make mention.
Madam Chair, just to be clear, with the motion, the conditions weren't mentioned, part of the motion, but I just want the record to reflect that that was the.
Brandon, would you like to state the conditions?
I apologize. With the conditions that the shed is not to be greater than the size of 10 feet by 12 feet, and that the shed is not to be located within the slope easement.
And do you understand what just happened here? So you can't exceed the size that we.
Correct.
And you're going to have to make sure that you know where that slope easement is, okay? That's going to be your responsibility.
Is there a town record of it? Do we know if there's a town record of that?
No, because
or-
you gotta, I think you have to do a surveyor.
You'd have to.
Yeah,
give
you're
an
gonna have to get
engineer
your own
plan. I did
surveyor.
send to Harmony this plan here. that
How's
we-
the
Yep, that's in our documents.
Surveyor gonna, so that's, okay,
Something there, but-
so just based off of that, we have to have that surveyed?
Well, you just need to have some, yeah, that's on you whether or not, I mean, so if the town came in and they needed to get at that slope easement and the shed was in it.
Yeah.
Yep. Then you would,
Okay.
it would be an
Okay.
issue.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
Okay.
Good enough?
all right, so you're all
Awesome.
set.
Thank you very much, guys.
Take care.
Enjoy your night.
Thank you. And,
Ready for the next case?
ready for the next case?
Case number 420-2022-2, a request for a special exception pursuant to LZO 5.13 for the Fayette farm sale of consumable non-farm products, 230 Mammoth Road, map 6, lot 21, zone AR1, Kyle Christensen and Moose Hill Orchard LLC, owner and applicant.
These are a little bit different, as you're talking about, they don't come quite as much, but they're not variance.
Do you want to hand them out? Can I hand them out?
Okay.
Do you guys want copies?
We only need one. Okay. Thank you.
This one's a no voting sheet.
Yep. Suzanne loves those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. They repave it too.
Yeah.
And who will be presenting?
My name is Gary Thomas from North Point Construction Management, and we're here on a variance for Max Apples. They currently have an ice cream stand on the property that we're basically looking to rejuvenate. They're having a major water problem that's beginning to rot away at the building, and as part of the process, we came upon a variance that was issued in 1991, I believe, for the serving of the ice cream and everything. We're really looking to rebuild the ice cream stand more appropriately with the surroundings of the building and aesthetically sort of bring the farm stand up to a new today's environment. Still keeping with the tradition of the farm stand, keeping the same barn doors. We're just trying to change some of the materials. The wood is weathered. They also get a lot of snow that's drifting over the front of the building, even though they're not open much in the winter. But they tend to get a lot of snow that kind of drifts over the edge. So we want to also build a slight little parapet across the front of the roof to keep that from happening over the front entry doors there. The major thing that we're trying to do, though, is really the ice cream stand to prevent a lot of the roof. There was a photograph supplied. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the white ice cream stand that's there now. It's a shed-style roof, which unfortunately slopes back to the existing building and dumps a ton of water every time it snows and rains. So, as you can see, what we're proposing here is sort of a more traditional pitch gable roof and a little bit of a covering, so as people come up to the front of the ice cream stand. So the variance that we're looking for is really about the food service, and Laura was kind enough to help us when we were asking about the position of being able to rebuild the ice cream stand, that we just had to kind of come back in for the variance that was already applied for. I believe it was 1991.
Yeah, so I can, it's a April 16th, 1991. There was a special exception to permit retail sale of non-farm grow product as presented. It was granted with restrictions, and the restriction was it was for the sale of ice cream only. Then it looks like there was an August of 2021.
Hot dogs.
Hot dog, yes.
Okay.
You're right, yeah.
I knew it, okay.
That was recent, right?
Yeah. Don't forget the hot dog.
Yeah, I forget about the hot dogs, you're right.
Jeez.
Most of
All
it has to
excited.
do, most of it has to do with non-farm stand,
Exactly.
service, so.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Because this is a special exception form, and it's a yes, no. Do we have any questions of the applicant before we proceed with the yes, nos?
I don't.
I'm all set.
I'm good.
Are you repaving the parking lot too?
Not my gig, but
Is the farm stand, is that ice cream stand larger than what's there now?
no, it's the only thing that's, I'm gonna say it's a little bit larger. It's mostly that front porch area.
Okay.
They have a canvas awning that they try to put up every once in a while, but when the wind picks up, they gotta close it because it's ready to rip off the building. So we're trying to avoid having that type of a canvas awning, which hence the couple of posts and stuff across the front of the facility, so. Helps keep the ice cream stand cooler with the sun not beating right through the front windows, obviously, so.
Be a good idea, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take it out to the audience. Do we have anyone in favor? And let the record state that there is none. Do we have anybody in opposition? And we also have none. I'll bring it back to the board. We're all set with the applicant. No further questions. I'll close it. And Suzanne, let's do the
Yep.
questionnaire.
Will the use be detrimental to the health or safety of residents?
No.
No. Does the use cause or create a nuisance or hazard to adjacent properties?
No.
No.
Will the use create undue traffic congestion or a traffic safety hazard in the vicinity of the proposed development?
No.
Will the use be incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood?
No.
No.
Will the use be detrimental to property values in the vicinity of the proposed development with consideration given to the location or scale of the buildings, structures, parking areas, or other access ways?
No.
Will a nuisance be created by such use by way of emissions of odor, smoke, gas, dust, noise, glare, heat, vibration, or other pollutants, or the unsightly outdoor storage of equipment, vehicles, or other materials?
No.
Will the use create a hazard to the public or adjacent property on account of potential fire, explosion, or release of toxic materials?
No.
Will the use result in the degradation, wow, that's tough at 20 of 10, of existing surface and groundwater quality standards, or will it have adverse effects on the natural functions of the wetlands on the site, which would result in the loss of significant habitat or flood control protection?
No.
Will adequate and appropriate facilities be provided for the intended use?
Yes.
Yeah, there are facilities already on site, so.
Will all necessary state and federal permits be obtained?
Yes.
Will the use specifically authorized by ordinance as a special exception use in the district within which particular site is located? Is the use specifically authorized by ordinance as a special exception?
Yes.
Are there appropriate provisions for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic from public streets and sidewalks so as to assure the public safety and to avoid traffic congestion?
Yes.
Excellent questions. Are the vehicle entrances and exits to be clearly visible from the street?
Yes.
Are there fully adequate parking areas and off-street truck loading spaces in conformity with this ordinance and all other pertinent ordinances for the anticipated number of occupants, employees, and patrons?
Yes.
Is the layout of the parking spaces, truck loading, berths, and the interior driveways convenient and conducive to safe operation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there adequate provisions for the collection and disposal of stormwater runoff from the site?
Yes.
That's a big question for a special exception. Okay. Is protective screening necessary?
No.
Is there or will there be the installation of outdoor flood or spot lighting?
No.
As part of are the new lights part of this?
There probably will be a couple lights underneath that canopy there, but there's already some lighting on the outside of the building. But as part of the exterior renovation of the new facade that you see on the upper, I'll say front elevation 1, he is asking me to get rid of those big giant LED, or not even LED, they're like high-pressure sodium Fenway Park lights, you know. He wants to kind of calm it down a little bit more, you know.
It goes on to say, if yes, the board shall determine that such lighting will not shine directly upon an abutting property nor upon the street. No unshielded light shall be permitted. What was his answer now?
No.
Are there wetlands on the property that require input from the Conservation Commission?
Are there wetlands on the property, Laura?
There are in the back, but this isn't in any of the wetland buffers.
Okay, so no.
Are there issues relating to traffic, parking, drainage, site design, et cetera, that would require input from the planning board?
No.
No.
Nothing's changing, right?
Board adjustments needs necessary to require input from the planning board. Do you have any conditions we want to put on here?
Free ice cream for everyone.
And hot dogs.
Before the board makes the motion, I just want it, just because I think it can be a little bit messy if we're not careful about clarifying the things. If you remember, in August, they were in front of us to sell hot dogs. And the board granted that special exception with the condition that the patrons of the ice cream stand shall be segregated from the parking areas in effort to maintain safety, which shall include but not limited to the use of the arcade area to route customers through the arcade area to avoid the parking lots.
That's right.
So this is a completely different type of configuration. So if the board still has concerns regarding that, that may be something the board wants to look at a little bit more closely.
Was that for Max?
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that key?
Yeah. 6 months ago.
So in August, when they were here,
Yeah.
to sell hot dogs, this board granted that special exception, but included a condition that the patrons of the ice cream stand shall be segregated from the parking areas in an effort to maintain safety, which shall include but not limited to the use of the arcade area to route customers through the arcade area to avoid the parking lot.
When they say arcade area, I think they mean the undercover area before you enter into the enclosed store.
That's what we called it.
Pinball there.
That's what they called the arcade area.
Yeah.
And this rendition segregates the people naturally, which when they came for hot dogs, we had no clear delineation of the customers because they could walk, and this cleans all of that up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the board was
Yeah.
aware if there was anything they wanted to
So there were
clarify
line
based
around
on
the
the
building,
previous application.
And if you look, we specifically have the windows servicing the side of the
That
parking
side,
lot, not
yep.
the front street side, so that we don't have to worry about kids being right out in the front of the parking lot there. So
Laura, if we granted this, we wouldn't get rid of that requirement anyway, right? Because that would still exist as long as they sell hot dogs, I guess.
It does, but now you have a different, somewhat different layout. So you still have the windows on the same side as they were when you granted the one in August. So if that concern was there in August, that concern still may be here.
Yeah, so it was to wrap the people around the building instead of straight out, right?
Right, but I just wanted the board to be aware that you did have concerns back in August, and you had the same service configuration still existing. So if that's still a concern, I would recommend putting it as a condition here as well.
Must not have been here in August because I don't remember that.
Yeah, so
I remember it.
instead of the line going straight out, it's to wrap around the building, right?
Sounds like my terrible idea.
Right? That's what
I mean, I don't
Sure,
see any
that's-
reason we wouldn't carry it forward. Like, I don't think, I think it would still apply. Do you guys not want to put it in? See, that's my idea.
I think it was.
Yeah, probably.
We're fine if that stays in.
Okay, I'm good with it.
Okay, she's gonna have to
Can-
hit me with it again.
It's a lot to
If you
write.
just want to put,
Same-
See, Laura?
it was the patrons of the ice cream stand shall be segregated
Okay,
from,
well,
Can we just refer to the?
you can refer to the August one too, if you want the condition in the August one. and I think
okay, patrons of the ice cream, yeah, go ahead.
Stands shall be segregated from the parking areas in an effort.
No.
Right, that makes sense.
It's on the screen in the back of you too. Is that easier for you to read it instead of me speaking it?
No.
No, okay. In an effort to maintain safety,
So there's.
which shall include
on that other side there, yeah.
but not be limited to
Oh God, that's my language.
Could be mine too.
Yeah.
So,
the use
other side
of the arcade area to route customers through to avoid the parking lots. That was you, Suzanne, because you made that
I know.
motion back in.
See Laura's way easier though. But at some point, she's gonna want to retire.
So I'm making that motion.
Okay, do I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for a special exception pursuant to Londonderry zoning ordinance 513 for the sale of the farm sale of consumable non-farm products, 230 Mammoth Road, map 6, lot 21, zoned AR1, Kyle Christensen and Moose Hill Orchard LLC, with the condition that patrons of the ice cream stands shall be segregated from the parking area in an effort to maintain safety, which shall include but not be limited to the use of the arcade area to route customers through to avoid the parking lot.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I did.
Mitch.
One more.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. You too.
Can make it
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yep.
When do you guys plan to do this, by the way? Just a quick question.
I gotta pull an actual building permit, but probably within the next, 30 to 45 days, assuming we
Great.
can get the permit, so.
It's gonna look
Ice
nice.
cream's
Yeah,
open now, right?
Thank you.
Yes, it's
So-
not gonna close the ice cream stand while you do it, is it?
Might just kind of shift it, because that thing is pretty much portable, so we're hoping to shift it, but we'll see.
Good luck.
So, thanks.
Okay.
That's quite a bit bigger than what we're with, yeah.
You can sign. 20.
Yeah, they don't have the like fire station.
I will. Okay. And last but not least,
Yeah, yeah.
and there was one.
Yeah, I've got that too. The one on, High Range, not far from Leaderboard. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Case number 420, 2022-3, a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.1 to encroach 20 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a garage, 188 High Range Road, map 9, lot 0073, zoned AR1, Craig and Karen Farnsworth, owners and applicants.
I created a sheet that makes it a little bit
Sure.
easier to understand. Can I get them?
Thank you. Thank you. I can share this.
Oh, you're not gonna let me do that? I'll be at another one. Thank you. Appreciate it. What's this?
My name is Craig Farnsworth. I'm at 188 High Range Road. I am requesting a variance for a single-car garage attached to the existing side of my house. After we moved in, it was brought to our attention that the existing 40-foot setback for a right-of-way, I don't know the exact date, but I believe it's from the 70s. It has not been closed or anything's been done with it since then. We're looking to encroach 20 feet into the 40-foot setback. The paper I just handed out, you can see that orange linear block, that's the plot of land I think at one time was gonna connect to the cul-de-sac. Basically come out across from Hickory Hill, just after our property on High Range. Currently, the lot's vacant, multiple large trees, just kind of a runoff area. Does not appear to be any plans.
Who owns that right of way? Is it an individual?
I don't know who actually owns it.
We must have notified them.
No, right away, that was a proposed road back in the 1979.
What was it called?
A proposed road.
Oh, I thought you said April Fool's.
No,
Road.
no, no, sorry.
You heard too, okay.
April Fool's Road.
So you can see it right here.
But there's no listing for an abutters to notify for that space.
No, we actually notified the people on the other side.
Okay, right, yep.
So it's like a paper road then, pretty much.
And if you look at that, where you can see originally it was there, and then if you look at this one, you can see here it is again, but there's no way that it can even connect to the cul-de-sac right now because you have this lot that's there. So it doesn't even have access to the cul-de-sac.
In the packet, I've included some architectural CAD drawings showing the existing house and the proposed garage attached to the house. Frontal shot, side view, and then looking at the top as the front part of the garage will extend into the driveway past the front of the house. So it'll be a shed roof for a majority of the garage, but then transition to a gable in the front to make it a little bit nicer looking.
This is, let's see.
Do you have the packet that you filled out
Yes.
with you? So go through the 5 points of law, starting with number 1.
Number 1, the proposed garage will attach the existing home and be finished in such a manner that the addition will appear seamless and have the same exterior characteristics as the existing home. There is no alterations to the essential characteristics of the neighborhood and/or the public right as intended for personal use only. Number 2, the proposed garage is within the 40-foot setback from a narrow piece of property north of us, and the property is listed as a proposed right-of-way per town record. Currently, the property stands vacant, wooded, low-lying area, and appears to have no future plans for development as of today. Proposed garage is imposing into the 40-foot setback. And in here it says 15 feet, but the opening statement says 20 feet. So I'm looking to be 20 feet into that 40-foot setback. There's no believed harm to the general public. Based on the proposed garage plans, sketches submitted, the surrounding properties will not be diminished. The plan is to construct and finish the garage to match the existing home. Point 5, the property adjacent north of us has been untouched for many years, and this proposed right-of-way will remain untouched. The location of the proposed garage attached to the existing home unfortunately encroaches into the 40-foot setback. Based on the current property conditions and access, this proposed location is the best possible for access and aesthetics of 188 High Range. It also solves a electrical utility issue that's attached to the side of the house. It'd actually bring it a little bit closer to the road, so my utility overhead wires wouldn't run as far. So that would attach to the new front of the garage, which would serve power for the garage and backfeed the electrical service for the house.
Do you have
I
any
included,
questions?
I included some pictures as part of that, showing sort of how the property lays now, and I took some pictures of what's out there now currently. Looking to the rear of the property, the side where the existing butter is shown, and then from where the garage would be looking out to High Range.
Does the board have any questions of the applicant?
So your 40-foot setback is to that paper road, is that correct?
Yeah, I included this drawing, which sort of shows some 10-foot lines.
Yeah,
And
I
I
kinda
overlaid
see
the
that.
garage. It's pretty close to scale.
Okay. It's pretty wooded over there, too. I don't have any questions.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, so you said it's the best possible. What else did you consider as opposed to going into the setback?
Closer to the road, more, because the way the driveway is this kind of a vacant lotted land to the front, which would put me within the 40-foot to the front setback of High Range and to the side. The opposite side of my house is all sloped as it comes down the hill from High Range. There's a level spot in the back, but there's no sort of road or gravel access to get back to the garage, so you're driving across the yard.
I guess your house, if you're going 20 feet in, your house must have been very close to the setback as well, right? I remember. Doesn't look like it was in it, but it was close.
Yeah, it is pretty close. Yeah, based on this diagram,
Yeah, we're just
that
looking.
line's probably 5 or 6 feet off the corner.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? I'm going to take it out to the audience. Is there anyone for? Let the record show no one is left. Anyone opposed? No one's here. Okay, take it back to the board if we got any other further questions. All right.
Good.
All right, I'm going to close it. Do we need to deliberate, or can we go into the 5 points of law? Anybody need deliberation?
Do not.
Okay, let's go into the 5 points.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because?
Would not.
Would not.
I would agree.
No change to the essential character of the neighborhood, no threat to public safety.
I agree. Oh, I'm not loud. I agree.
Thank you, Mitch. I can hear you now.
I was just noticing, you're right.
It's
I'm
10
quiet
o'clock and I
tonight.
can hear you.
The spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because?
Would be.
Would be,
I agree.
Brendan's just gonna say for the same reasons as one.
Exactly.
Can't have an inconsistency if the reasons are the same.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because,
I'd say it would.
I say it would.
There's no loss to the public. There's, the loss to him by not having the garage is greater than any gain to the public.
Agree.
Agree. Bill, do you agree?
values of surrounding properties would or would not be diminished.
Would not.
Would not.
There is not a fair and substantial relationship between the public purpose and the ordinance provisions.
There's not.
I agree, is not.
It's not, I agree.
Special conditions of the property. Oh, we're talking about the right of way.
The right of way.
Right away.
Slope on the other side.
And the proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because
Is.
Is garage.
Sheds or garages. Whoa, not sheds. Garages are reasonable.
Really late, huh?
I almost downgraded. I'm so sorry.
It's a big shed.
We made it to 10.
I did.
any restrictions or comments?
The shed shall not be,
Garage.
garage shall not be any greater than 20 by 30.
Shed on the mind.
Oh, my gosh. So sorry.
It's all right. I've gone through the shed process. I've gone through the pool process, so.
Gosh. All right, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 420-2022-3 to grant the request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.1 to encroach 20 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a garage, 188 High Range Road, with the condition that the garage not be larger than 20 feet by 30 feet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you, you too as well.
Boom.
Good luck with your shed.
Have a good night.
Good night.
And the last order of business, communications and miscellaneous, do we have any?
Nope, only other thing I will continue to mention is we're still looking for somebody to act as chair.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Jack as chair.
Do we have a motion? And we do have it seconded.
You okay with that?
Oh, no, I have too much of a workload. I can't give it the time that it needs.
Good job.
There has to be someone better. Come on, guys.
Do we withdraw your motion, or do we get to
Withdraw my
debate it? Okay.
Mitch,
No, I'm not gonna.
you're very good. You're eloquent. We just gotta get you to talk a little louder.
You shushed me today.
I did shush you because I wanted to make it out of here for
Yeah,
10.
you didn't catch
I
the
said
shush.
gentlemen.
I'll get it.
That's true, you did say
I
gentlemen.
said gentlemen.
You were right,
All right,
that was the best way to do
I'll
it.
divvy it with you.
No.
I think
there has to be some consideration up here. Think
I
about it.
think you're doing a
All
good
right, we'll
job.
think about it.
Want to make another motion then?
Yes, please.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, do I have a
Please.
second?
Yes. I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.